He says that everyone thinks the outskirts of the city are dangerous and suggests simply living outside them. They walk down the street when says that there is nothing useful left. He says that everyone thinks that the shards took him, and she responds sharply, suggesting that they do something. He warns others to stop as they move, and she looks ahead with a determined expression. He asked if the other felt the presence of something unusual, while both looked intently towards the light. A huge blue hand with electric sparks squeezes a person, creating a tense and dangerous situation. The two watch as a giant creature with many tentacles and a glowing body appears, surrounded by a mystical glow and smoke. The image shows a powerful energy blast or attack with bright blue and purple flashes, with no characters visible. The two scream and push away from something, expressing intense fear and tension. We see the hair of the main character, Haechan. Haechan attacks two opponents, and a huge blue hand appears below, destroying the ground. He speaks to a seated man with dark hair, expressing determination or warning. He notices a guard and alerts him to this, while another one expresses concern. Haechan turned sharply towards the bright blue light and spoke with determination. A powerful explosion or impact occurs, accompanied by a loud sound, but the characters are not visible or speak. He grabbed the other man by the hand and called loudly for the guard. Haechan sits by a broken wall and says he's scared as two people run away down the street. He stands in front of a huge creature with many blue tentacles that are approaching him menacingly. Haechan saw a man lying unconscious on a crosswalk and expressed surprise. He turns around sharply, expressing surprise and wariness. Haechan is thrown back by a powerful blow that pierces the ground next to him. Haechan jumps on an opponent in a blue suit, while another person grips the handle of a weapon. He quickly attacks the blue creature, noticing its weak spot, the splinter. He jumps down, noticing that it is the part connected to the tail of the trouble. He raises his sword with effort and begs for mercy. He attacks sharply, ordering it to be done immediately. He abruptly parries the blow, causing a loud noise and surprise. He is panicking and tensely saying that something is happening or is about to happen. He falls backwards with force, accompanied by a loud sound and sudden surprise. He falls forward with a cry of pain and warns not to underestimate the enemy. The image shows a powerful explosion with a blue energy effect, giving the feeling of a strong blow or attack. He screams the other's name as he falls to the ground in a cloud of dust and energy. He looks ahead anxiously, surrounded by dark energy, and is clearly experiencing fear or tension. He summons a huge glowing blue hand that moves forward rapidly, destroying the walls around him. She jumps into the attack on the giant blue hands, and he lies, covering his head in the destroyed room. He repels an attack using glowing threads aimed at him by an unknown enemy. She uses her magic power with concentration, surrounded by glowing blue threads. He yells at Shinjae, Rim to wait, who confirms and orders him to handle the situation himself. Depicts a scene of a powerful impact or explosion with a bright flash and sound effects. She attacks the blue monster with a powerful energy strike directed from top to bottom. She furiously declares that she really wants to kill the interlocutor, demonstrating strength and determination. She falls rapidly downwards, surrounded by glowing blue lines of energy. He releases a powerful blue energy blast that explodes into a bright light and destroys the ground beneath him. The image shows a powerful explosion with bright blue light and motion effects, but no characters are visible. She runs forward, assuring him that his life is not in danger, while he and the other man watch the scene. He with blue hair sat down on the ground, and she with pink hair answered briefly, "Okay." She exhaled in irritation, and he silently watched her on the street. He hears someone calling his name, Haechan, while his nose is bleeding. She sternly tells him how many times he needs to repeat not to show off without abilities, and he sits on the ground with difficulty and remains silent. He coughs behind his mouth against a backdrop of city buildings, expressing embarrassment or discomfort. She screams with rage, expressing strong emotions in conversation. She wonders why he always comes first despite blocking all notifications and the third one watches them. She stated that the incident would be reported to Manager Kang, and he reacted with fear. He was surprised to see her, and the other blue-haired one was scared, watching their meeting. He looks anxious and tense, as if he is trying to cope with an unexpected situation. He clenched his teeth and made a muffled sound, expressing pain or tension. He and she stand in front of glowing blue vines against a bright symbol labeled The Chosen Ones. The two prepare to fight the monster, Kalami. He says that only they can confront him underground. He looks at the glowing golden amulet lying on his palm. He clenches his fist and looks determined, as if he is preparing for an important step. He sits on a cracked road in a ruined city and breathes a sigh of relief. 7 years ago, the first giant monster appeared to destroy Seoul, as told against the backdrop of its sinister figure with bright blue eyes. Underground catastrophes awaken one after another, as if on cue, causing massive destruction on the surface. In a dark city, a huge creature with blue glowing limbs destroys buildings, and a man tries to survive by reaching out from under the rubble. The image shows a bright blue energy blast or stream of light against a dark background with no visible characters. The guards found that the ceiling stones were scattered across the ground and prevented the occurrence of disasters in their parts. Shards. The image shows a glowing dome protecting part of the city from external influences. Night has fallen on the city of Daejeon, where the windows of houses and skyscrapers are lit up, creating a contrast between the old and new parts of the city. 2 bodies were found in the restricted area at 10 a.m. today. A warning appears on the screen for citizens to remain vigilant and not enter prohibited areas. A crowd of people are told that security guard Yuje Hwan has been appointed as the overall leader of the Jeju City team. He asks if now is the right time, and the other person addresses him by the name Kyung Han. He reproaches his interlocutor for going into the restricted area again for a fragment, and he tries to justify himself. He put his hand on the other's shoulder and, noticing his agitation, tried to calm him down. He, with blue hair, listens attentively while another man with glasses warns him that he told him not to do something. He suddenly grabbed the other one by the shirt, causing him to become frightened and try to pull away. He smiles and waves his hand, saying that it is serious, while the other person moves away. He stands in the center, surrounded by others, and expresses a reluctance to interfere with what is happening. The image shows a chain with a sign warning of a restricted area and possible penalties for violating it, with no characters visible. The image shows the fast flight of an object bouncing off the walls of a building. In 10 minutes, the movement of all city residents will be restricted, and they are advised to hurry home. He sits on the roof in the dark and reasons that no one wants to be weak, they just have a little bit of bad luck. He sits in the darkness and sighs heavily, expressing fatigue and disappointment. He looks ahead with concentration, preparing for an important action, accompanied by a tense sound. He sits on the roof of a building and watches as a bright blue light spreads across the city at night. He sits on the roof and notices a bright luminous phenomenon that is rapidly moving downwards with a loud sound. He sits on the roof at night and looks around warily. A bright red light appears in the center of the stage, breaking through the darkness and creating a feeling of powerful energy or an explosion. He stands in front of a powerful swirl of blue and pink light that rises rapidly upward in the dark room. He stands next to the giant blue tentacles and notes with surprise that everything is happening as expected. She exclaims, surprised at how he is always the first to know about the appearance of a fragment, and rushes there. He notices that the fragment is too big and is surprised, because usually such sizes are found far outside the city. He warns that if the creature attacks, they won't be able to dodge it, and notes that, fortunately, there are no civilians nearby. She asks him to calm down and says that Miro is not a bad person, but he cautiously steps back. She excitedly calls for a conversation, trying to stop what is happening around her. She looks scared and tense, as if she is trying to urgently explain or warn something. He runs towards her and she calls his name with her hand raised. She woke up suddenly and stretched out her hand forward in fear. He and she fall backwards, trying to protect themselves from a sudden blow or explosion. He exclaimed, grabbing the girl by the shoulders as a bright blue light suddenly flashed in front of them. He grabbed her shoulders anxiously, trying to explain something, and she looked at him with surprise and motionlessness. He holds her hand anxiously and asks how she feels, noticing her fear. He and she look at the glowing creature in surprise, without saying a word. He stood up abruptly and she asked if he was Haechan. He said he was told to help Miro, and another asked what he meant. He holds the other one back, asking Hae-chan to calm down and explaining that the kid is just a little angry and not an enemy. She persuades Hae-chan to pay attention to his friend who is trying to talk to him, and he is surprised and indignant. She covers the man's face with her hands and notices that his face looks older than Miro is used to seeing, and that something seems wrong. He says it feels like something has been lengthened, and she screams at him to stay away, trying to push him away. He screams in horror, expressing strong surprise or fear. She says with surprise that the enemy turned out to be weaker than she expected. He opened his eyes suddenly in fear or surprise. The image shows a powerful explosion or flash of light engulfing the building and surrounding area. He stepped on a crack in the ground that began to widen under his foot. He sits on the ground, surrounded by destruction, and a glowing blue hand appears in front of him. He sits on the floor, supporting a girl with long blonde hair, and expresses concern. He coughs and tries to say something, starting with the phrase, she says with a serious expression that someone helped her. He apologized to the child as a powerful blue stream of energy crashed down next to them. He says they were quickly rescued, turning to the blue-haired girl next to him. He holds out his hand and someone squeezes his finger with a small hand. Mira was a little worried when she said he was a good person. She turns to Hae-chan and asks if he wants power. He says thoughtfully that he needs to become much stronger to help those he cares about. It releases a powerful blue energy blast towards the enemy. He says that Miro can give it to her, and she listens in surprise. The two watch as a bright blue blast of energy suddenly erupts in front of them. He is surrounded by a bright blue light and hears a call to reach out his hand. He reaches out and she touches his fingers against the shining light. He touches the glowing giant hand and she stands nearby and watches what is happening. Two characters dodge a powerful blast of blue energy that destroys the surrounding area. He's breathing heavily, sitting on the ground, and she's standing next to him, holding his hand, surrounded by glowing balls. He looks ahead tensely, feeling anxiety and inner tension. He, with blue hair, looks worriedly at the sleeping girl with the green hair. She asks Miro for help, expressing anxiety and holding someone's hand. He listens in surprise as he is told that Miro will pass this power on to Haechan. He squeezes the other man's finger, making a quiet sound of surprise. He and she see a creature that cries for help and asks to free it from pain. He looks shocked or scared, his eyes wide open and his nose bleeding. She exclaims in surprise, not understanding what is happening around her. She stands barefoot against a dark background, her legs shaking or moving, creating a blurry effect. She activates a glowing amulet on her chest that makes a sound. They discuss the investigation into the unauthorized entry into the restricted area and warn that the punishment will be harsher than usual, and one of them praises J-Rim for her good work. She says that the appearance of fragments is one thing, but she listens anxiously to the conversation on the phone, noticing something unexpected. Narration says safe zone in Daejeon is shrinking. He warns that sooner or later, shrapnel will start appearing in civilian areas while the other two are nearby in a tense situation. She walks down the street and confirms that she has an additional report by answering a question on the phone. She says on the phone that the situation is really dangerous. He speaks on the phone, expressing concern or urgency in the conversation. She clenches her hand in horror, expressing intense fear and tension. She sits on the ground in shock, and he lies unconscious and calls her manager. He moves with concentration, eyes closed, making quiet sounds. He stands in the darkness, surrounded by a gloomy atmosphere, and his rapid breathing can be heard. She stands in the room and says with surprise that he woke up in bed when someone else entered the room and spoke to him. He turns in surprise to the man in the black coat sitting in the chair, who looks tired and silent. He is introduced as the leader of a field team in South Korea named Kang Yeon-mun. He is sitting on the bed and the other on the chair, and the latter asked why he came in person. He is shocked by what he heard, and the other one denies it and wonders who could say such a thing. He anxiously wonders if he was really in a dream and wonders if the moment that happened was just a dream. He warns that the situation is dangerous while the other one clenches his fist on the blanket. He looks away nervously and the other listens attentively to his silence. He listens attentively while the other reacts with anxiety to what is said, showing concern and tension in the conversation. He appears worried and begins to speak, expressing his doubts or concerns about what is happening. He clutched his chest in panic while the other one watched him with a smile and laughed. He looks away thoughtfully as if trying to understand or remember something important. One is sitting on the bed, the other is on the chair, and the second one says it's time to accept reality. He realized with horror that being a security guard is a serious matter. He screams and clutches his hand to his chest, expressing severe pain or shock. He exclaimed, "Hyung!" as the other one seemed to walk away, ignoring him. He says with surprise and tension that the abilities must be stronger, addressing another person. The scene shows a glowing trail against a dark background, and a voice says that even he. And besides, he turned around and said he couldn't let them leave because it was dangerous. He looks away thoughtfully as if trying to understand or comprehend something important. He realizes that he has the same power as someone else. He reflects on how no one sees the energy of disaster the way he does and suggests that this is why he is different from others. He thinks that he is the only one in the world capable of this, and someone asks if he cries. He notices tears in his eyes and says that Haechan is crying like a baby. He heard a sharp sound at the door and turned sharply towards it. One yells at Haechan to shut up, warning that if Miro finds out it will be a disaster. The image shows the creature falling and saying it is in pain. He recoiled in fear and exclaimed, recognizing Furball, who replied that he was Furball but thought it was rude. He introduced himself by saying that his name was Miro. He is surprised and she appears with a victory gesture and says, "Ta-da!" He is shocked when he hears that he should thank Miro. He listens in horror as he is told that he is still too weak to cope with this. He was surprised that it was not a dream when a giant hand approached him and the girl. He asks in surprise, "Is it really from this moment?" And the creature confirms. He gets out of bed and asks who is in front of him, assuming that it is not a person, but a disaster or a fragment. He thinks Haechan talks too much while there are books with notes on the table. He pushed the creature away sharply and ordered it to stop looking around like that. He is shocked and screams, asking what kind of creature it is. He says that Miro is Miro, and in response he hears that this is not what he is asking about. He says that the problem is not that, but that they are already very late, turning to Haechan. He is in a panic and screaming, expressing intense fear and despair. Haechan screams as he flies in a cloud of smoke while the other warns him to stop or they will be caught. He tries to run away in panic while the other one taunts him, calling him a drama queen. He reassures Haechan that they are almost there. Abandoned village with mysterious, glowing object shown outside restricted area in Daejeon. He falls back with fright as if he had been suddenly knocked down or pushed away. He asks in surprise what kind of place this is. He sits on the ground and she looks at him in surprise as if she had just appeared in front of him. He is alarmed by the difficulty of the terrain and internally remarks, "This terrain..." He recalls seeing in the book an image of a village in the Daejeon area that was sealed due to the weakening of the sealing stone. He was shocked to say that Miro didn't care about it. She asked Haechan if he confirmed that he also heard voices. He sits on the ground and looks worried, and she listens to him in surprise in the dark room. She says that when someone held Miro's hand, there were cries of help. He hears with alarm someone begging him to save him. He and she are standing on the roof and he asks how she knew this. She stands on the roof in the light of a mysterious glow and looks carefully to the side. He looks with surprise and alarm at something that suddenly caught his attention. He suddenly opened his eyes, which glowed with a bright pink light. A bright pink light suddenly appears in the ruined city, illuminating the ruins and buildings around it. She stands on the edge of the roof and looks out over the ruined city, and he sits behind her and watches her. He looks at her fearfully and she asks him to restrain himself, calling him by his name, Heiken. He sits and she promises to tell him everything he wants to know, in a dark room with a mystical light around her. He looks at the glowing creature with fear and seems stunned by what is happening. She shows the document and begins to explain the principle of the sealing stone. He is surprised to think that Miro knows everything. He points his wand at a glowing purple creature with a human shape, studying it. The image shows notes with dates and locations of the filming, as well as an image of a glowing creature that a pointer is pointing to. He explains what is happening while another person records what he hears in a dark room. The image shows someone drawing a schematic image with lines and symbols using a marker, showing the direction up. He listens in surprise to someone knocking and looks carefully in the direction of the sound. On a destroyed street, a modern skyscraper can be seen among the rubble against a clear sky. He carefully studies the map with marked symbols and routes, trying to figure out where to go next. He shows someone a piece of paper and she stands behind him and watches. The image shows calm, circular areas among the trees as if nothing had happened. Two people stand in front of a glowing rock in a forest surrounded by vegetation and rocks, watching the mysterious object. A mysterious blue symbol glows on a stone with ancient inscriptions, surrounded by moss and foliage. He writes on paper and reflects on how the sealing stones protected them. He looks at the notebook with concern, holding a pencil in his hand, as if trying to understand or decide something. He admits that he has always been suspicious, showing a tense expression on his face. He stands by the window and looks out as if he noticed or heard something. He looks out the window at the glowing blue cross above the city and wonders if this really is a form of disaster. The image shows a glowing mystical ring trapped in an energy field, and says its movements were restricted by a sealing stone. He began to speak thoughtfully, that it was almost as if he explains that the sealing stones are their main body. They came to the place and he said that they were here. He screams in fear, expressing intense fear and tension. The two look at the glowing sealed stone. One of them exclaims that it is the sealing stone. A stone slab with a magical symbol cracks and glows on the verge of destruction. He notices a surveillance camera and thinks that this is an abandoned place that even the guards have abandoned. So there is no one here. He notices that the basic security system is still active and warns that it is dangerous to linger here, after which he orders the camera to be destroyed. He is surprised and she points to the glowing stone and says that it must be destroyed because it is a bad thing. He panics and warns that if something breaks, a disaster will also happen. She warns that the real disaster will kill, and he replies that he will not die, because Miro promised to give him strength. He and she look at each other intently, a glowing energy sparkling between them. He watches in horror as she hits the column, causing cracks and glowing sparks. He notices the damage to the seal stone and calls for emergency help while trying to hold on to another who is clinging to the wall. He thinks it's hard and decides that if he gets caught, he'll say Heichen made him do it because Miro won't leave. He got scared and said that people would be disappointed and would think that he had forced an ignorant child to do this. She holds out her hand and says that we need to destroy this and find out the truth. He listens with tension and fear as he is told not to give up like a coward. He holds out his hand and the other man replies that he doesn't know, and their hands touch with the glow around them. He protects the girl by releasing a powerful blue energy blast. It releases a powerful blue energy blast, creating a bright flash and a strong flow of energy. He watches as a glowing object appears in front of him, causing intense radiation and surprise. He shouts in support of Heichen and encourages him to continue. Some say it's impossible to stop while the shards are glowing and flying all around. He screams with effort and delivers a powerful blow, accompanied by a bright blue energy. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword surrounded by a blue electric discharge, and she hovers nearby supporting him. She loudly demanded that Heichen stop what he was doing. He orders the object to be destroyed, focusing his energy into the attack. He lands on the ground, surrounded by a powerful blast of light and flying debris. He said excitedly that they had done it, and she watched attentively nearby. He noticed a bright red light and was surprised by what was happening. He screams with an expression of great fear and tension. He falls from a great height against a backdrop of bright red-violet light and loud sound effects. He falls to the ground suddenly, screaming as if something had happened unexpectedly. He holds her in his arms, breathing heavily as a menacing pink light rises around them. A creature with a brightly glowing mouth releases a powerful energy charge into a dark space. He stands in front of a giant glowing creature surrounded by destruction and a mystical atmosphere. He says in surprise that the other person already knows how to deal with this, pointing to something in front of him. Someone orders the destruction of the glowing creature and another confirms that he knows about it. The small creature on his hand tells him to trust Miro and assures him that the current Haichin can handle it. He squeezes the object in his hand with effort and hears a call to use all his strength and jump. He curses under his breath and stomps his foot sharply on the ground. He screams in pain and falls backwards, surrounded by a bright blue light and the sounds of impact. He concentrates on releasing a powerful energy clot, surrounded by glowing blue streams. He exclaimed in surprise as a powerful purple hand threw him into the air. He says in amazement that his body feels unusually light and incomparable to its normal state. He holds the glowing being and thinks that it is the power of that being, while asking if Miro told him that he would be okay. He says that even in a dream listening to Miro, one can get everything one needs, and is surprised, adding that he would not normally be able to scratch this opponent. He thinks that if now he can become like the other guards, accompanying his thoughts with the sound of a blow. He rushes forward, leaving behind traces of light and energy, as if rushing towards a goal in dynamic movement. An unknown character reflects a powerful attack of blue energy beams that collide with his red aura, causing a bright explosion of light. He fights off the attack while trying to grab the small creature as the enemy attacks with an energy blast. He releases a powerful energy blast that collides with a bright blast of dark energy in an intense battle. They exchange powerful energy attacks, creating bright flashes and sounds of collisions. It attacks with a bright energy strike at a creature with horns surrounded by purple light. He is in severe pain and screaming from fear and stress. Someone screams in panic for help and a desire to leave, while a bright explosion of energy flares up around them. Someone screams desperately, asking to be let out, against the backdrop of glowing blue energies. He floats in the air surrounded by blue energy and says that he does not understand why the other suffers so much. He screams and releases a powerful energy blast from his fist, surrounded by bright blue light and dynamic lines. He releases a powerful energy beam, causing a bright explosion of light and a wave of energy around him. He slammed his fist into the surface with force, causing it to glow brightly and crack. He breaks through the broken glass with surprise and tension, surrounded by a bright pink light. He looks forward with concentration, radiating energy, accompanied by sounds expressing tension. He sits on a glowing floor with blurry figures of people visible around him, as if trying to reach him. The image shows a dramatic explosion or flash with dynamic blue lines and light, creating a sense of powerful action or impact. He falls into space, surrounded by glowing streams of energy and strange symbols. He explains that if there is a problem with the sealing stone, the disaster hidden underneath it will rise to the surface. He touches the wand to a glowing symbol that emits purple energy threads. He explains the creature's structure by pointing to a glowing image on the screen. He warns that if the cursed core is destroyed, there will be serious consequences. He looks at the glowing being who turns to him, causing surprise and attention. He closes his eyes in concentration, surrounded by a bright blue light, as if about to use a special power. The image shows a night sky with bright stars and glowing blue balls, accompanied by sounds conveyed by captions. He runs and she hovers next to him. Blue balls glow around them and the ground cracks and glows. He breathes heavily and she is silent, looking away, not responding to his words. He looks ahead with concern and she stands nearby, watching what is happening intently. He confirmed that we are talking about souls who died unjustly. He and she notice that the rock is catching them, and she expresses concern about it. He approaches Haichan and asks if he knows anything important. They say that something terrible happened here a long time ago, against the backdrop of the night city and the glowing balls. She stands in the dark with a flower in her hands and says that this event should never happen again. He clenches his fist, blood spurting out, against a backdrop of dandelions and the sound of impact. Several wounded men lie on the ground, one of them breathing heavily and trying to regain consciousness. A group of people stand at the edge of a pit, and one of them tells how many died without understanding the cause of their death. He explained that the stone was made then, pointing to a flower on the ground. He looks at the girl leaving with concern, noticing something unexpected. The voice explained that the stone was used to trap souls and prevent them from rising to the surface. The voiceover explains that the injustice of the imprisoned souls grows and eventually they turn into monsters. A glowing creature breaks through the ceiling, destroying it and causing rocks to fall on the surrounding tall buildings. He realizes with dismay that the sealing stone does not prevent disaster, but on the contrary, creates it. He said she knew it wasn't true. He declared with determination that no more disasters would arise here now. He turns to her and she listens in surprise in the silence of the night. He stands in the dark and someone calls him to come closer, calling his name Haichan. Night, the forest path is illuminated by moonlight. Sounds are heard, creating an atmosphere of mystery. He asked if they were going, and the other replied that they were heading to higher ground. He asks in surprise, not believing his eyes, what could this be? He watches the glowing portal in the ground, surrounded by ruins and trees, feeling the tension of what is happening. He looks around warily and the cloud-formed creature looks ahead in surprise. He explains to Haichan that Miro only wants to help save his friends who are stuck underground. Under the night sky with the moon, someone answered briefly yes against the backdrop of a mountain. They discuss that the disaster must first rise to the surface, otherwise it will destroy the rest of the city. Two people run along the top of a hill at night, surrounded by thick trees. He turns around in alarm, noticing that she is holding his hand tightly as if she doesn't want to let go. He looks at the glowing object in front of him in surprise. Multicolored light trails shine brightly in the night sky above the city, creating the impression of a magical or fantastic phenomenon. He said that the disasters were growing and were already exceeding the ability of the stones to contain them. He reports that nearby disasters are uniting and becoming stronger together. She warns that if you don't release them one by one, they will unite and attack simultaneously, holding the interlocutor's hand. He explains that Miro's request concerns not only friends but also those who are still alive. She looks forward with a serious expression, preparing to say something or hear an important message. He listens thoughtfully as someone tells him he is special. He stands in shoes opposite a barefoot woman in a dress on the street. She extends her hand and asks if anyone is willing to help Miro. He looks anxious and tense, a bead of sweat running down his face against the glowing blue light. He and she are standing on a hill at night near the ruins, and he agrees to something by saying, "Okay." He suggested trying it while the night sky and an electric pole were visible in the background. In a ruined city, sparks fall from a metal object to the ground, creating cracking sounds. The camera suddenly turns on and starts glowing in the dark. The image shows a lone flower lying at the bottom of a round vessel with water against a backdrop of rocks. He types quickly on a keyboard in a room with several people in the background. In the Daejeon operating room, uniformed staff are busy monitoring monitors and performing their duties. Two men notice a third man entering the room and one of them addresses him as manager. They discuss Haechin. One of them asks if it has to do with him while the fourth person works on the computer. He said that the child was slightly hurt, to which the interlocutor replied that he understood. He speaks to another man with surprise and slight excitement, paying attention to what his interlocutor says. One man shouts the news, running up to another who listens to him with a worried look. One of them called out to the other, Gyum-san, in surprise, noticing his unexpected behavior. He turned sharply and looked around carefully as if he had heard or noticed something. Someone is confidently walking on the metal floor. The sound of footsteps can be heard. He turns to another man standing at the door and asks for a report. He jerked back as something suddenly blinded him in the face. A glass container with blood breaks, sounds of impact and falling are heard. He stands opposite another man and addresses him, making a request or demand. He shows her a photo and asks if this is what she sees. He looks at another man with blood on his face who holds a piece of paper in front of him and listens attentively to his words. He points his finger at the screen with the distorted image and starts talking. He looks at me with tension, blood on his face, and a blurry picture is visible on the screen next to him. He speaks with concern and the other one replies that it is nothing important. He wipes the blood from his face and looks serious, as if he is about to say something important. He squeezes his hand on which a necklace with a pendant glows, making a strange sound. She clenched her hand into a fist from which light emanated, preparing for action in the darkness. He looks into the darkness, illuminated by blue light, and seems focused on something important. He places a glowing object on the table, making a quiet sound. He looks closely at the glowing medallion he holds in his hand, emitting a mysterious glow. The South Korean army, liberating territories occupied by North Korea, killed many people under the pretext of punishing collaborators of the People's Army. The image shows a photo of Neja Kim Hyun-wook with a caption and text about strange events in areas where similar incidents occurred. He sits at a table with a laptop and books, and the other one agrees by answering, "Yes." He begins to speak with an expression of determination, preparing to continue his thought. The voiceover explains that the souls abandoned underground for decades gradually became stronger. They discuss that when the creatures become stronger than the sealing stones, they will break the barriers and rise to the surface, confirming this with the word "exactly." The furry creature with the antenna thoughtfully says that at this rate, something will happen. He looks at the screen in surprise, and next to him is a plump, light green character who says something. He muses out loud that the story is not at all unbelievable, as the security records confirm it. He reflects that the increasing destruction between neighboring villages confirms the reality of the disasters. But one unanswered question remains. He clenched his fist around his laptop and wondered how the security guard could not know the true nature of the disasters. He looks away warily, expressing doubt and concern. He turned to the creature with the antenna, who replied that it was a secret. He wonders thoughtfully if he can really trust this person when he suddenly hears a notification sound. He is surprised to see a message that access to the document is denied and that he needs to confirm his access level to reconnect. He asks in surprise what is going on, turning to the glowing creature at the laptop, and expresses shock at what he hears. Laptop screen displays notification of clearance downgrade from Field Team Level 3 before the probationary period with the condition of returning to the level within a month. He noticed an incoming call from Kyung-han and looked anxiously at the phone lying on the floor. He asks to check one thing over the phone, and the other person replies that the error is not related to his access. He explains that the decision was made by the manager and that something must have happened at the top. Someone asks Haechin if he really wants to stay as a guard that badly, warning that it's too dangerous, especially on a field team. He asks why the cloud looks like it doesn't want to talk to him. He looks at his phone with concern and someone asks what happened. He panics and explains that he is a security guard in name only, expressing great anxiety and confusion. He asked why this was important and clarified that it was simply a matter of finding rocks and breaking them. One says that rushing blindly is the stupidest thing, and the other admits it and asks to calm down. He worries about Haechan and wonders what to do next after noticing the manager's determination in this situation. He stopped abruptly, expressing surprise and tension. He sits at a table with a laptop and says that there is a way, to which the interlocutor reacts with surprise. He thinks to himself that there is only one way. In the locker room, several people are busy with their own affairs. One is sitting on a table, another is putting bottles down, and the rest are standing or walking past. She sits and someone hands her a bottle of water, offering her a drink. She says something while he smiles and opens a bottle of water. He asked why the technical team couldn't come here and she said it was impossible. He explained that he came in because he had business to attend to, while the other two were talking in the distance. He whispers, wondering if someone has returned for probation or been completely expelled while two others are in the room. He is surprised and she is shocked and asks if Wu really is Haechan will be expelled. He listens attentively as she anxiously explains the situation, trying to convey important information. He said that someone decided to give up working in the field team and move to the technical team. She, with pink hair, looks worried and surprised, as if she had just heard unexpected news. Surrounded by fire and destruction, the team on site prepares to deal with disasters and manage the city. He stands next to her as she talks about the technical team researching the power of guards and disasters and maintaining the sealing stones. Two people discuss the importance of a technical team. One agrees but tries to object. She and he are walking down the hallway and he thinks that Wu Haechan the very next day after losing his qualification. A girl with pink hair looks worried while another one watches her closely in a school uniform. She notices that he still doesn't cry or complain, although she expected the opposite. She leaves silently and he watches her in surprise. He turned around sharply, noticing something behind him, with a wary expression on his face. She mentioned Shin Jae-rim in surprise and reminded him that he used to cry because he wanted to stay in the field team. She says with a smile that she is not afraid and suggests testing who is stronger. He looks ahead intently, listening or thinking intently. He gestures in surprise and she turns and asks, "What?" He leaves and the two follow him, expressing surprise and trying to stop him. She says he's acting strange and he agrees with a little trepidation. One of the girls noticed that the other one seemed interested in Wu Haechan and asked about it. She recalls that normally he would have gotten angry and lost his temper, despite the little blue creature's words about his imminent return. He wonders what the other is hiding as he looks at the tall office skyscraper against the backdrop of the sunset. He looks ahead in bewilderment, noticing a girl with long hair walking away. Wu's name with alarm. Haechan peeking around the corner. He takes a step down the street, the sound of which stands out against the evening light. He stands at a closed entrance with warning signs, surrounded by fences and walls, in an empty and dirty yard. He stands at the fence with warning signs and tape, listening to the sound and the silence. She watches a man sitting on a fence near a blocked passage with warning signs. She covered her mouth with her hand in fear when she heard a sound coming from behind the wall. He turned around with a question, expressing bewilderment. She hides around the corner and watches anxiously at the closed area with warning signs and tape. She hides behind a wall and wonders why she is hiding and what she should feel guilty about. He leans his hand sharply on the ground and she stands against the sunset with her hair flying, as if preparing for action. He says in surprise, "What the?" against the backdrop of a destroyed city and a damaged car. He hides around the corner watching the pink-haired girl who asks in surprise where someone went. He peers around the corner anxiously, holding a glowing ball in his hand, and seems to have heard or noticed something. He breathes a sigh of relief as he watches the glowing creature hover in front of him. He casts a spell with concentration, creating a sparkling blue magical energy around his hand. The screen shows messages about an emergency meeting for team leaders at central headquarters, after which he expresses displeasure with the words, "Oh, come on." He looks at his phone screen while another one watches him from behind, preparing to say something. He hands over the documents and the other asks to pass them on. He fell silent, raising his head and looking ahead in tension. He looks at the photo and thinks that this is the one the manager is looking after. He says something with a smile, and the other one with glasses listens in surprise in the dark. He looks away with a tense expression on his face, as if preparing for an important action. He demands immediate approval, and she looks away and walks away, holding the document in her hands. Baek Kyung, Taik, general manager, smiles while holding documents in front of blue light. He is concentrating on increasing his strength, thinking that he needs to become a little stronger. He jumped back sharply, dodging the bright explosive flash that blinded the area around him. He explains that this time, instead of a direct strike, a different tactic will be used. He concentrates on gathering energy and resolutely prepares to release it. He releases a powerful blue energy blast surrounded by a vortex of light and speed. He opened his eyes abruptly, expressing great surprise and tension. Depicts a blue energy blast directed towards a tree, accompanied by sound, and someone expressing irritation. He explains that energy loses form when it leaves the body, and she asks if he can just hit her. She looks in surprise at the glowing hand emitting blue energy. He explains that the ability to freely manifest power determines a guardian's rank, showing how he uses energy weapons. He notices a shadow with a knife, and she says it's complicated. He reflects thoughtfully that although he heard what was said, he cannot understand the essence of it. A clenched fist shows determination and tension at the moment of action. He holds her hand and thinks that the color of his hair changes like a battery-level indicator. He strikes a large creature thinking he can only use direct physical attacks. She counts to 3 and he looks tense and sweats a little. He ponders his suspicions as he looks out over the felled forest at night. He and she stand among fallen trees. He thinks that the child's strength is much greater than he expected. He notices something in the background of the rock with surprise, reacting to strange sounds around him. The image shows a powerful explosion with a bright blue flash and flying debris. He summons a giant blue fire dragon that appears in front of him, surrounded by powerful energy. He is surrounded by blue flames, radiating powerful energy, and emits a loud scream when expressing rage or determination. He protects the girl by summoning a powerful blue flame that surrounds them and scares away the enemy. He looks forward in surprise, his eyes glowing blue and energy pulsating around him. He points to the side and says that something is there surrounded by a mystical blue light. He jumped up suddenly, creating a cloud of dust around himself. The image shows a cityscape with a high-rise building against the backdrop of a rising or setting sun. She stretched with pink hair, and 2 men and another person watched her in the hallway. He explains something while she with pink hair gets ready, and the third character listens to their conversation. He was surprised, and she replied that, in fact, no. He calls out to Haechin, who stands to the side and looks forward, not responding to the call. He announces that the request to transfer to the technical team has been approved, and she, with pink hair, reacts to this, standing next to the other 2. He said it took a long time, and he said a week was a quick turnaround. He says the man was very keen to stay on the field team. He turned and said something expressing surprise or bewilderment. She looks irritated and tense against a dark purple background with a lightning effect. He wonders with disbelief what is happening to him, looking at the 2 girls standing next to each other in the dark environment. He in a white coat offers something to the blue ones, and she with pink hair watches from around the corner. He smiles and says something confidently, looking away. She looks ahead with a determined expression, preparing for the upcoming event. He is collecting books on the floor when a small glowing creature asks where he is going. He smiles, holding a stack of papers, and says that Miro is tired. He talks to a small glowing creature that makes a noise of confusion. He, holding the books, says that there must be a reason why the interlocutor wanted to join the field team so much. He said thoughtfully that everything was fine now. He says it's boring here and asks to come back soon while a small creature listens to him in the room. The furry creature is silent and the speech sounds like an accusation of Haechin's lying. He puts the folders on the table and says that it took a whole week to change departments. He sits at the computer in the library and thinks that during a secret training session he destroyed 3 sealing stones. He reflects on how everyone was thrown like little stones and assumes that they have already noticed his presence. He muses that even if the data exists, it would not be made public, and that a madman attacking the sealing stones would cause chaos. He sits in a chair with his hands behind his head and wonders if this is a stroke of luck. He looks forward thoughtfully as if he heard or noticed something. He holds the ring and thinks that the other person must have a reason to want to join the field team so badly, asking if he is really okay. The image shows a large building against a skyline with no visible characters or dialogue. In a hospital room, a doctor tells a man with blue hair about events that happened 2 years ago, while a third person stands nearby and listens. He looks with concern at the blue-haired man sitting on the bed who seems depressed and silent. He asked again in surprise, not realizing that he had been chosen. He is trying to get out from under the rubble with blood on his face, experiencing severe pain and fatigue. He covers his head with his hand, protecting himself from the blow, while the dark figure stabs him with a spear. He looks ahead with anxiety and determination, as if preparing for an important event or battle. He explains that they protect people from monsters and asks another if he is one of these guards. He says he can't take it anymore and wants to leave the hospital. He looks tired and thoughtful, as if he is trying to understand or accept something. He is wearing a hospital gown and exclaims sharply, expressing surprise or shock. He looks away with surprise and alarm, noticing something unexpected. He has blue hair and a hospital gown, and the other hand puts his head down. He answers yes. He smiles and points his finger forward, creating a sense of confidence and friendliness. He looks away thoughtfully, hiding his emotions. He sits at the computer and covers his ears, clearly experiencing discomfort from the loud sound. He thinks that asking Yeonmun Hyun or another guard for advice is too risky, and doubts that anyone will believe him. He contemplates the worst-case scenario if senior guards are hiding important information. He has blue hair, holds folders, and says something loudly in a tense situation. He nervously opens the door, making a hiccuping sound. She lies on the ground with her eyes closed and a cloud hangs over her, creating a tense atmosphere. He asks worriedly what they should do now, looking at something in front of him. He makes a sound of displeasure or pain, expressing discomfort. Someone called Haichin at the closed door. Footsteps are heard. He looked into the room and asked if the other person had forgotten his password. She opened the door slightly and peered inside with alarm, noticing something unexpected. She looks in horror at the creature that emits electricity and makes strange sounds. She is lying on the floor with her pink hair down and another person is on top of her. He screams in horror, asking if he has gone mad, addressing the small creature on the floor. He lies on the floor and apologizes, saying, "Sorry." He grabbed his head in panic and screamed, expressing great excitement and confusion. He nervously admits that something like this actually happened. She suddenly appeared in front of him and he was frightened, and the little creature next to him was also alarmed. She lies on the ground with her eyes open, expressing great shock or distress. He awkwardly waves his hand and says hello while standing next to the frightened creature. The character panics and crashes into a wall with loud impact sounds heard around him. She exclaimed that he was the one she needed sitting on the floor and he looked at her from behind. She calls someone a monster when she gets punched in the face. He tells her he knows something with a smile and beads of sweat on his face, looking straight into her eyes. She is shocked by the blow to her hand and he, with his blue hair, looks guilty and embarrassed. He panics and says that you can't just walk into someone else's room, addressing the girl with pink hair. She grabbed the glowing object in horror and asked what this thing was. He flinched sharply and she expressed surprise with a swirling gaze. He retreats in fear when a bright rainbow light appears nearby. He is blue with hair and nervously tries to explain himself to the furry creature, expressing doubt and uncertainty. He explains what happens to a normal person who gains Maze's power and notes that the pink-haired girl is holding up quite well. He is worried and says something important, and the creature next to him listens in surprise. He is blue-haired and shocked as glowing energy swirls around another man's legs. He with blue hair delivers a strong blow from which the other screams in pain. He suddenly gets hit by a girl with pink hair and is overcome with shock and pain. He is in a panic and says that he cannot believe what is happening, experiencing strong excitement and fear. She clenches her fist tightly and looks ready for action, despite the blood coming from her mouth and sweat on her face. He anxiously holds in his hands a small creature that makes weak sounds and looks ill. She screams that she doesn't care, and he stands in front of her with a surprised expression in the room. He holds up the glowing creature and says it's a little creepy while she looks at him in surprise. She took an aggressive stance and expressed her dissatisfaction with what was happening. She thinks about some guy with a serious expression. She thinks he is quite clever in this matter, watching him with interest. He listens silently, clearly disturbed by what the other person said who started the conversation. She replied that it was obvious, turning to the man with blue hair. He looks closely at the glowing creature and is about to say something. He explains that this power is useless to others as their bodies cannot withstand it. He whispers something and she looks at him with irritation from behind a cloud of smoke. He promised to explain everything, turning to the girl with long pink hair. He looks forward with concentration, raising his hand to his face, preparing for action. She screams in horror, looking forward in fear and sweating from fear. Two people are flying on a glowing cloud on a rainy night, and one of them notices that there is too much noise around them. He called Wu Haichin little, but he told him to keep his harsh words to himself while attacking him. He notices something in the distance in horror and calls Maze to look there. She, with pink hair, panicked and tries to dodge or defend herself, expressing great tension and fear. He explains that this means there are many hidden disasters, depicted as glowing circles on a dark background. She asks tensely if this is really the scale of so many disasters. He exclaimed in surprise when a glowing blue ball and a man in a dark suit appeared next to him. She anxiously asks why they are here as another man grabs her hand, surrounded by blue light. He asks for help while holding the hand of a little girl with antennae while she looks at a woman with pink hair. He speaks the words with concentration, causing a glowing blue stream of energy to flow from his hand. She says the word Earth while standing next to a small glowing girl, both looking at the figure in front of them. She is shocked and says she can't believe it. He directs glowing energy from his fist towards a mysterious symbol on the wall. The two watch as Wu Haichin runs forward and one of them asks him to stop. She grabbed the man's face sharply, causing him to make a sound of pain. She asked in surprise if he was Haichin's friend, hugging him close. There's a cracking sound and he asks if the other person really just followed him. She touches Haichin's face and says that if he wants to know, he should believe in Haichin. He fights back against the attack by claiming that Haichin is not a bad person. He explains that Maze asked him to do this to save her friends. The glowing monster emits bright light, creating a tense atmosphere in the dark. She watches him standing in the dark with the blue light and wonders if it's possible to make them visible. He says thoughtfully that he means what his friends look like. He muses that despite the difficulty of using power, if you concentrate it in one point, the pink-haired friend seems quite strong. He thinks that this might be possible until the sound of footsteps is heard and a face with pink hair appears. She tells him to focus as they find themselves in a tense situation against the backdrop of a dark forest. She warns him to watch carefully while he stares ahead intently. She opened her eyes suddenly and screamed. The image shows a powerful explosion with bright light and energy flows, but the characters are not visible. He lands on the ruined ground in front of a pink-haired woman who watches him. She breathed heavily and looks worried as someone gently places a hand on her shoulder. He falls down, surrounded by glowing figures, and wonders if this is a disaster. He stands in front of her in the dark and begins to speak, creating a tense atmosphere between them. He speaks thoughtfully about how he cannot afford to make a mistake in this matter. She is breathing heavily, sitting on the ground with a frightened expression and cracks beneath her. She is breathing heavily and looks scared, as if she has just experienced something terrible. The image shows two characters standing with their backs to each other against a red background with the words "memory" written on it. In the maze. He opens the door, gripping the handle tightly. He breathes heavily as he watches another man with blue hair place his bag on the bed in the room. She looks surprised and tense, as if she just heard something unexpected. He looks away thoughtfully and says that he can't understand why everything happened this way. She talks to him insistently in the hospital room, where he stands with a bag by the bed. He asks why someone was unconscious for so long, and she tries to understand the situation in the hallway. She speaks with concern, and he listens attentively without looking away. He explains that he can't help because he doesn't know where the right person is. She appears tense and worried, pressing her lips together and sweating slightly, as if preparing for a difficult conversation or event. He watches a conversation between a girl with pink hair and a man with glasses, who are discussing something important. She grabbed his shoulder and asked him anxiously if he remembered her. Wu's name with fury, Heichin expressing strong emotions. He says thoughtfully that all guardians gain strength after surviving a disaster. In 2025, the Gwangju disaster occurred, killing tens of thousands of civilians due to a late evacuation. He and she approach a broken circle on a path in a dark forest at night. He places a flower on the ground and asks the other person if he is sure that this is acceptable. She asks if something bad will happen because they let her go, and he remains thoughtfully silent. She says with surprise that He speaks thoughtfully and she listens in surprise, looking up at the night sky. He says something serious, looking away against the dark sky. She runs quickly down the street, looking back as if trying to escape from something or someone. She looks anxious and tense with her pink hair, as if she is trying to understand something or quickly react to what is happening around her. He pulls the fabric hard, causing a "whoa" sound to be heard. He sits in the car in the pouring rain, looking out the window. She calls out to Shin Jae-rim in a panic, trying to wake him up in the pouring rain. He asks to look at himself and says that everything is fine, while asking for help and survival. Jae-rim's name in panic, expressing intense excitement and fear. She turned her head sharply, expressing strong surprise and tension. She suddenly delivers a powerful kick, expressing determination and strength in the movement. He yells at Shin Jae-rim in rage, accusing her of being crazy as she jumps towards him with force. He makes an annoyed sound as he tries to control the bright blue energy coming from his hand. She quickly leaps into attack, surrounded by bright energy flashes and lighting effects. He runs towards her, trying to catch up while she stands ahead on the street. She explained that she was simply tired, responding to the man who was talking to her. He turns to her with concern, and she turns, listening to him attentively. Two people walk down a broken street where a dark cloud hangs over the cracks, and one of them is surprised that the other doesn't know what's going on. He assumed that the seal had finally broken, turning to the pink-haired girl who had turned away from him. He raised his finger thoughtfully to his face, as if about to say something, against the backdrop of city buildings. He stands surrounded by blue light and says that he is attacking the seal stones. Wu's name with alarm. Heichin, looking at him, and he remained focused and silent. He stands with his arms crossed, and she talks to him on the street, explaining something important. She looks away determinedly, as if preparing for an upcoming event. Shows a destroyed city with huge craters and falling objects creating impact sounds. She stands on the rocks and remembers that exactly 9 days ago the seal of the Jumsan stone was destroyed. She sits on the edge of a huge crater and reflects that there are no other traces of the catastrophe except this one, which means that no new disasters have appeared. She looks thoughtfully into the distance, as if considering an important decision. She looks at a broken security camera against the backdrop of a destroyed city and a burning sky. He inserts the flash drive into the laptop, making a connection sound. She sits at a table in a dark room and works on a laptop, the light of the screen illuminating her face. He asks her doubtfully if she trusts him in this matter as she sits nervously on her lap. He turned to her and listened attentively as she said something, standing against the backdrop of the night forest. He looks away thoughtfully and begins to speak, expressing serious thoughts. She looks ahead intently, making a quiet sound, expressing concentration and determination. A video with a distorted image is shown on the screen, and a voice explains that they are trying to find out their identity. She sits at the table and says that when she collects her thoughts, let her come back again. He bites his nail nervously, clearly feeling tension. He nervously shakes his leg in his chair, and a small creature next to him tries to calm him down. He is worried and says that if the rumors spread, then everything will end, and next to him stands a worried creature. He asks with fear if he is doing the right thing by addressing someone outside the frame. He is confused and worried, saying Heichin's name with a confused expression on his face. He was frightened by a knock on the door, and next to him a small creature looked at him in surprise. He looks out from behind the door with a wary expression and quietly says something. He grabs the other one by the collar and she pushes him back with a scream. He grabbed the girl's hand and said with fear, "You." She confidently states that she remembers almost all the regions, addressing the man with blue hair. She says something important to her interlocutor with an expression of determination. He speaks with anxiety, clutching his shirt, expressing worry or fear. He took her hand and she reciprocated while in the appliance room. He looks down embarrassed and she listens to him attentively. He listens in surprise to his interlocutor, who has not yet finished speaking. She says something sharply with a determined expression on her face while standing in the room. He smiles and says something, and next to him stands a creature with an antenna on its head. He says with confidence that he is not afraid and is ready for any challenges. She is in shock and is horrified by what is happening around her. He sits on a chair and says that it sounds absurd, and she stands opposite and starts talking. He looks tense with blue hair while another person extends his hand and says something important. She looks worried and tense, as if she is trying to understand or comprehend what she has heard. The two happily smash the rock while the monster below screams in pain and horror. He turns to her and she, covering her mouth with her hand, looks embarrassed and tense. He listens to his interlocutor with surprise and tries to understand what is said. She warns that if anyone approaches the forest, they will die. He with blue hair looks worried, holding the creature in his hands, and she with pink hair stands in front of him, discussing the benefits of the situation. She cursed under her breath, touching the back of her head after the unexpected event. He stands in a room surrounded by a glowing cloud from which sounds are coming. She nervously says that she can't just give up and leave. He looks worried and says something, causing tension in the conversation. She says with a serious look that he is going to destroy all the ceiling stones. He covers his mouth thoughtfully, and the other man asks if he thinks he can handle this on his own. He looks forward in surprise, as if he had suddenly noticed something. He slapped the table and she looked at him doubtfully, crossing her arms. She looks worried and tense, as if she is trying to explain or justify herself in a difficult situation. He speaks with confidence, expressing determination and readiness for action. The signboard indicates that the city ahead is Chongwon, which specializes in agriculture. 4 people are walking along the road next to the greenhouses, and one is saying something from the field where he is standing. He holds an empty box and hears a sound indicating that it is empty. He turns to the other and says something important, making a sharp movement with his hand. 2 men are walking down the hallway. One says it's time to go to Daejeon, and the other demands to wake up. He smiles and the other listens with concern, uncertainly reacting to what was said. 2 men discuss the hope that someone else will also come to the large room with the blue light. He smiles thoughtfully while the other looks away with concern. Both are in a room with metal structures. He concentrates the energy in his hands, creating a powerful glowing ball in front of him. The 2 men react with surprise to the sudden event, expressing bewilderment and exclaiming, "What?" and "W, what?" 2 men look at something out of frame with concern and fear, clearly experiencing great excitement. He stands in a dark room with a hood over his head, creating a menacing and mysterious image. He hides his face behind a hood and a cloud of smoke, peering out from behind it with a wary look. He rushes forward with fury while the other tensely prepares to attack, expressing determination in battle. He slammed his fist into the ground, causing a bright blue glow and cracks to form. He suddenly hit the surface with blue light, causing a strong explosion and surprise among the surrounding people. He sharply asked if the other person understood what was happening, and warned that residents should evacuate. One of them urgently reports on the radio about the attack on the seal, ordering an immediate evacuation. He notices a hooded figure meditating on a glowing stone and watches the scene with surprise. He panics and reports that someone is madly breaking the seal stones. He is wearing a hood and exhales thick steam that almost hides his face, creating a tense atmosphere. He speaks with anxiety and tension about what is happening, expressing strong emotions and anxiety. He pronounces that all the stone seals are activated, surrounded by blue light and magical energy. The image shows legs in military boots striding across the floor. He entered the room where 2 men in uniform were waiting attentively for him at the table. 4 men in uniform sit at a table in a room with large windows, creating a tense atmosphere before an important conversation. Commander Hwang Chugul from Busan General introduces himself with a serious expression. He stands up and addresses the others who are sitting at a table in a room with a South Korean flag and technical equipment. He says with a smile that their older brother is not one of those who... He smiles and says something, and the other one listens to him with a serious expression on his face. Nakyoung, the leader of the team from Gangneung, introduces himself and starts talking. He and she stand next to each other. He is introduced as the leader of the Jeju-Yo team. Jae-hwan. He says something important, expressing seriousness and concentration in the conversation. He said he was hearing about it for the first time, and she said it was true, and they continued to discuss the situation. He explains that he cannot reveal the information, and the interlocutor listens attentively, waiting for an answer. The one with long hair asks about those guys, and the other one with curly hair looks surprised. He looks over his shoulder and says something important, creating a tense atmosphere in the scene. 4 men in uniform sit at a table in a room with a South Korean flag, and one of them shouts loudly. 2 men and 2 women discuss the investigation. One of the men says thoughtfully that the case is under investigation. He looks forward with a tired expression and seems like he is about to say something important. A man with a beard listens warily as a young man with purple hair confidently says that he is not afraid. He squints and says that he is not going to give up so easily. He looks at you intensely, preparing to say or do something. He turned his head sharply, noticing the movement of a hand on the armrest of the chair. 3 men are discussing something at the table. One stands up and the other refuses, saying no. He stands on a raised platform illuminated by a beam of light, while another watches him from behind in a darkened room. He and the other man look forward in surprise, reacting to the unexpected sound. He informs the group that there is an urgent request for help, and everyone listens attentively to him at the large window. He stopped abruptly when another man raised his hand, interrupting his movement. He looks ahead with surprise and tension as if he has noticed something unexpected. Several people in military uniform stand at the window and look at the city covered in fog or smoke. She looks at the man standing in front of her with concern and tries to explain the situation. He placed his hand on the scattered papers and said that their trail had yet to be found. He said the mission should be secretly assigned to the second-class guards while the others listened. He says that if he can secretly contact someone, he can do something, addressing the interlocutor with red hair. He speaks with concentration that they can become something, continuing the thought in dialogue. The image shows the legs of a man who says he will stay. He, with a beard, listens attentively to his interlocutor who begins to speak, but his words are not visible in the image. 3 people stand next to each other, 2 look forward, and the third turns to them, expressing attention and readiness to talk. She is panicking and explaining something to the man standing in front of her. He winks with a smile and says something with confidence and enthusiasm. He looks away and starts to speak, but his words are not visible in the image. He confidently declares that he will make his presence known. They discuss the number of repetitions. One is surprised 5 times. Zrenia. A group of people discuss rumors about a person with an unusual mask, arguing that it is either a young man or a middle-aged woman, and someone says that there are several of them. He stands with his back to the bright, glowing space surrounded by rocks and dust. One person encourages everyone to move slowly and carefully, and another confirms this by saying, yes, yes. He is sitting on the roof with a mask and a hood, his hand pressed to his face, and a hum or vibration can be heard around him. He points to 2 people on the street and shouts loudly to get their attention. 2 people watch a man on a roof who says he can't do anything else. He looks ahead with concentration, radiating energy, preparing for action. He lets out a scream as he receives a powerful blast of light energy from another hooded man. He concentrates on releasing a blast of energy from his mouth, preparing to attack. 2 people attack the hooded man with electrical attacks, who tries to dodge them, making a sound of pain. He attacks the enemy with a cry of, "Die!" swinging with a glowing sword in a dynamic fight. He pointed his hand energetically at his opponent, and she responded by suggesting that he speak politely. He receives a powerful blow from which a bright flash of light and waves of energy fly apart. An explosion or powerful blow occurred near a multi-story building, creating a bright flash and sound effect. She looks tensely at the approaching fist, preparing to strike. He asks why sealstones were used, standing in the ruins while another breathes heavily next to him. He, with red hair, looks warily at the hooded figure who says something to him. He was wearing a hood and mask, lifting it to show his eyes, expressing surprise or tension. The screen displays the message, "No results," indicating that there are no results. In the archive, 1 man stands with a tablet, another sits on his lap, and a third asks why there is no mention of that person in official documents. He carefully examines an object in his hands while outside in an urban environment. He asks if the other is saying this because he has finished his work here, turning to the hooded man. He threatens a kneeling man, demanding respect if he gets into the engineering team, and someone notices them from behind. 1 man called out to Kyung-han, who replied that he wanted to tell him something. He looks at his interlocutor with a serious expression on his face, preparing to respond to his words. He turned around sharply in his hood, noticing something behind him. The hero asks if he is in the city of Gangneung, looking at the night cityscape with illuminated buildings. She asked what was going on with the sudden external reinforcement, and he replied that it just happened. He explains something to a woman with red hair standing with her back to him. She expressed doubt, suggesting that their base might be far from Daejeon. He says with confidence that it is time to spread the name of the liberator of disasters more widely. He is in uniform and watches as 2 people discuss something in the hallway, with one of them touching the other's hand. He said the situation was pathetic, addressing the pink-haired girl who was standing with her back to him. She says with concern that it is still dangerous. One says it's an opportunity while the other listens with interest, standing nearby. He turned to her abruptly, looking frightened, and she asked anxiously what was going on, turning to the man opposite her. He smiles and asks why they are both so scared. He smiles and says something with a friendly intonation. 3 people stand in the hallway. One calls the other the field manager's favorite and remarks that he looks like he's going to be here for a long time. He looks away with concern, visibly worried and wincing tensely. He was surprised to see Hassan and the other guy in white jackets, and turned his attention to them while standing next to the girl with pink hair. She pats the blue-haired man on the shoulder with a smile while a third person watches them from behind. He and she appear anxious and tense as they react to the unexpected event. He smiles thoughtfully and touches his chin as he talks to someone who just entered the room. He is wearing a hood and exclaims with alarm, expressing strong emotions and tension. He smiles and encourages another who responds enthusiastically while the third, with pink hair, watches them with tension. He asked why the other one looked worried, and the other one replied that the situation was making him anxious. She speaks with determination, addressing the two men who listen attentively to her words. He says there is no need to worry, while the other listens with concern and worries about the situation. She says with alarm that she cannot believe what is happening and tries to explain the situation. He asks with a grin if the field team has any available men, while the other looks worried. He looks forward with tension, expressing inner excitement and concentration. He looks at her with concern and she reacts to his words with displeasure, clearly experiencing tension between them. He happily confirmed that he understood by talking to two other characters. He smiles and exclaims joyfully, expressing delight and self-confidence. He says with anxiety that he is leaving tomorrow, and she listens to him with a worried expression. One of them warns not to get too attached and to work properly, and the other one objects that this is not so. He turned around sharply as two people, one hooded and one with pink hair, approached him with wary expressions. He speaks in fear and she listens with concern, clearly disgusted by what she has heard. A helicopter flies over a mountainous area. The sound of rotating blades can be heard. 4 people in uniform are sitting in a vehicle. One with blue hair is talking. The others are listening silently. The driver is focused on the road. She whispers and he replies that someone is sleeping, holding a glowing object on their chest. He answers in agreement, turning to the man in uniform sitting next to him. A man with red hair says something excitedly. A girl with pink hair is nervous, and 2 other men listen to him in a confined space. He says he's not a child as 2 creatures growl in front of a helicopter and a bridge. He, she, and he are sitting together, and the latter is pointing out the window, drawing attention to something outside. He looks down at the road and asks if they are near the border of Gangneung. He says with a grin that there is nothing strange about it, but she looks worried and surprised. He says something with a smile, and she with pink hair looks at him with indifference in a dark room. He tries to convince her, but she waves him off, and the other guy with blue hair crosses his arms and remains silent. He laughs and she looks at him with a serious expression. She said he had bad breath, but he turned away without answering. He is embarrassed and sweating. She looks sternly, and the third one watches them tensely. A helicopter takes off from a city site, creating strong winds and noise around. He looks ahead with tension, and the 2 behind him look worried and tense. 2 people in white coats walk through an empty, cracked parking lot. The sound of wind can be heard, but no one speaks. He notices something strange, and another man in a white cloak approaches him, expressing concern. He opened his eyes abruptly in fright when he heard an unexpected sound. He hears someone calling his name, Big Brother Kyunghan, against the backdrop of bright blue lights and energetic movements. He slams his hand down hard, creating the effect of a powerful blow. She attacks furiously, shouting, "Take this!" As the 2 men try to dodge the blow. She quickly attacks, and the blue hair worriedly asks the elder if he is hurt, to which he confirms that everything is fine. She asks in shock what it is, while the 2 men behind her look worried and sit on the ground. He is panicking and anxiously saying something out loud, clearly alarmed by what is happening. 3 men in white are surrounded by blue creatures, while a woman with pink hair stands in front, preparing to fight. The text tells that 5 years ago in 2025, stability was achieved thanks to the guards. The image shows several people in the dark and says that false rumors about disasters and guards have begun to emerge. He reaches out his hand into the darkness, surrounded by glowing particles. The image shows a map with 4 bright stars symbolizing the pillars that support the new nation. The image shows a map with a highlighted glowing city, accompanied by text about the city with a population of less than 200,000 people. He looks out the window of a moving train, thoughtfully observing the surrounding landscape. A helicopter flies against the backdrop of a city and mountains, and in the dialogue they explain that the destination of the trip is the city of Gangneung. The image shows a moment of fast movement with a blue light effect and impact sound, with no visible characters. 2 men watch as a woman summons a bright blue being that radiates energy and makes a loud scream. She feels pain from the impact, accompanied by the sound, "Ugh." She falls backwards, surrounded by blue energy rings, and 2 large glowing beings appear in front of her. She with pink hair attacks the blue creatures, and 2 with blue hair watch the fight from behind. He says they are clearly in a safe zone as they are both kneeling under a bright light. He shouted sharply, "Duck!" and someone quickly ducked, dodging the blow. He called out the name Maze to the small glowing creature next to him. He releases a powerful blue energy blast from his hand, attacking the opponent who tries to dodge. He and the other man watch with concern as the pink-haired girl quickly walks away, causing them to worry. He asks his older brother to urgently contact Gang Kneeling, who screams in panic. He screams furiously for Miss Jareem not to be touched, attacking with blue energy streams. He attacks a glowing blue entity that makes a sound of surprise. He screams in pain as he takes a powerful blow from the blue creature while the others step aside. He advises to fight with confidence and aim for the tail, and the other one screams in pain in response. She prepares to attack, and he excitedly asks what she is going to do, expressing concern. He uses magical power to attack the enemy, who screams in pain. 3 heroes dodge attacks, surrounded by blue energy streams and a tense battle atmosphere. He reacts sharply to the attack, expressing determination and tension in the fight. He abruptly orders someone to duck, expressing the urgency of the situation. He looks in amazement at the luminous phenomenon in front of him, trying to understand what is happening. Several creatures with tentacles and energy charges move rapidly towards a bright explosion of light. He asks tensely what was going on, clenching his fist and preparing for action. He clutches the glowing object and exclaims in surprise, trying to understand who is in front of him. The 3 characters are surrounded by a powerful blue energy that tears apart the rocks and creates a vortex of light around them. He attacks rapidly, surrounded by blue energy streams and stones, creating a powerful combat effect. He orders to move towards the tail, and she confirms his command. He is confused and asks what happened and tries to figure out who that person is. He delivers a powerful blow surrounded by a bright energy aura, breaking through the enemy's defense. He stands surrounded by a powerful explosion of energy that illuminates the space around him. He looks ahead with concentration, preparing for an important action or event. He said that this place was dangerous, and the other one, with blue hair, retreated, feeling uneasy. He adjusts his glasses and gets nervous, while the other one silently walks away without responding to what was said. He asks if it really was an hour ago, and she remains thoughtfully silent, looking ahead. One man rushes towards a man with blue hair sitting on the ground, who is supported by a woman standing next to him, while another man stands in front. He asked if it was the same person, and she anxiously clasped her hand to her chest. He and she are walking down the street talking about something important without looking back. She says the name Hamnakyon. A group of people in white coats and dark clothes walk along an empty street next to fences and a parked car. He with blue hair and 2 others in white clothes look ahead tensely, hearing strange sounds around them. He noted that the atmosphere seemed unusual, looking at the empty street with an abandoned building and dim lighting. 4 men discuss the fact that there are only guards here, and one of them is surprised by what he hears. He asks why this is happening while the other 2 listen to him against the backdrop of a gloomy sky and street. He turns to her and she looks away thoughtfully without answering. He notices cracks in the floor and says that there are signs of destruction there, while a girl with red hair stands nearby. He thoughtfully noted that despite the proximity to the seal stones, the situation looked exactly like this, and began to explain to Haechin. He invites the 3 standing behind him to enter by saying, "Please come in." They stand at a large stone with the seal of City 2, which glows and is surrounded by a fence. He and she look worried and tense while being together in a dimly lit room. A man with glasses yawns while watching a glowing scroll. Another man stands next to him. They're getting ready to end the working day. A man with glasses talks about the state of the city, and 2 people listening to him, one with blue hair, the other with pink, look worried. She says that she can watch freely as long as he stands nearby and listens. He turned away silently, and she tried to attract his attention with anxiety and fatigue in her voice. A group of people in white coats and with pink hair stand in front of a glowing stone monument with mysterious symbols in a darkened room. He studies the writing on the wall carefully, and another one watches, while the third one stands nearby without interfering. A small creature asks a man what he is going to do. He looks worried and remains silent, not answering the question he was asked. He looks at her in surprise, and she tries to explain something with a tense smile. He sits with his arms crossed and speaks while another stands nearby with his hand down. He says firmly that he will not allow anyone to harm his friends. One of the characters asked Haechin if he feels like their hands are already intertwined. He says he feels it vaguely, looking away with a worried expression on his face. He holds a small creature that explains that it was originally difficult to defeat the stone seal with just 2 people. The hero explains that the stone is already weakened if the friends fully unite. The image shows a powerful explosion with bright red and blue flashes, accompanied by sound effects. He's sitting on the floor with a blanket on his lap, and she's standing next to him, and he says that's what Maze thinks. He turns to her, and she, confused, tries to explain herself, touching her head and gesturing with her hand. She explains with a serious expression that we are talking about a special city with a different scale. He tensely pronounces the name of the Gwangju disaster, preparing for an important conversation. She speaks angrily to the man sitting on the floor who is holding a glowing object in his hands. She has bright pink hair and blue eyes and looks at me with surprise and tension. The image shows a man lying on the ground covered in blood with a tense atmosphere and sounds conveying anxiety and danger. She stands in the darkness, surrounded by destruction, trying to say something while a mystical pink cross glows brightly above her. He says with surprise that he explains this for his own reason, turning to another person next to him. She screams loudly, trying to attract the attention of her interlocutor. He looks worried and tense as if he heard or noticed something. She asks tensely how he could not imagine what it is. She has pink hair and is screaming in panic and tension, expressing strong emotions and anxiety. He sits with a stuffed toy, silently looks at the person who entered, and then says that he is against it. She speaks with a determined expression on her face, clearly expressing displeasure or protest. He sits on the floor in the room and hears the sound of the door opening. He wonders why she is angry. He looks at his hand and thinks that the other person has always been like this. He thinks that someone is too reckless, overconfident, and acting alone again. He looks ahead tensely, feeling anxiety and inner tension. He wonders what happened then. The image shows a glowing stone with inscriptions, accompanied by a question about the analysis file. He and she stand next to each other in uniforms with orange accents. She looks worried, and he keeps a serious expression on his face. He holds a briefcase and says something to his interlocutor, while another person breathes heavily in the background. He laughs sheepishly, and two men in the background also laugh, watching him. He suggested that the elders go together, while the other two listen to him with different emotions. He said that the one should thank him for saving him from wastefulness, while the other looked tense and irritated. He threw the book away abruptly, causing a flash of light and a loud sound. One of them said that if it was Dijon, everyone would have been removed from their positions by now, and the other warned that everyone could hear them. Three men discuss the situation. One of them says with irritation that this is very unfortunate, while the other holds his chin thoughtfully. One of them says that the other one doesn't feel responsible, he tries to leave, and the third one thanks and says goodbye, while the fourth one holds his head. He touches his head and looks worried, experiencing internal tension. He tells his older brother that he needs some fresh air while the other two listen and watch him attentively. He walks away along the tracks and the other two watch him without saying a word. Someone slowly opens the door, stepping into the room with their foot. The image shows the exterior of the building with large windows and sounds coming from there. He stands on the sidewalk near the stairs, holding a glowing object in his hands, and hears the sound of a blow. He admitted with a tired look that he didn't like the people here. He says it's still good for them and will make the stone easier to care for. He says something important, looking to the side with a small glowing device on his neck. She explains that he doesn't know because he doesn't remember it. He regretfully thinks that what happened was a real disaster. He admits that he may be taking the situation too lightly. He stands on a bridge and says that he hates himself because no one recognizes him, and then he tells that he accidentally met another person. He stands with his back turned, surrounded by blue light, his clenched hand showing determination and readiness for action. He sits thoughtfully on the street in the evening, lost in his thoughts. He remains silent, not knowing what to answer. He says he can't give up now, and a woman standing in the distance reacts to his words with surprise. He with blue hair moves away, and the other one watches him from behind, not saying a word. He turns to General Ham Nakyoung and asks if he is still working. He is surprised that the team's general is also present, talking to her at the fence at night. He says he can't understand why she's acting this way, and she listens to him attentively. He asked, "Yes?" Zrenia, turning to her as they stood by the fence in the park at night. She looks around and starts to speak, but her words are not visible in the image. He listens attentively while another person talks to him in a nighttime setting. He says thoughtfully that if there are no changes, then a difficult decision will have to be made. He feels awkward standing next to another person with dark hair and internally experiences the situation. He looks worried and tense, as if he heard or noticed something in the darkness around him. She holds out her hand and says she can't let another person die. She says it's his first time in Gangneung, extending her hand forward. He looks at the outstretched hand in surprise, as if trying to understand its meaning. Night, starry sky, and silence in the forest. Only a slight rustle among the trees can be heard. Two people are walking along a night path, and one admits that the situation is bad. He nervously says that they are still investigating, and she listens attentively and looks at him. He walks up the stairs and the other follows him, expressing concern. He quietly says Heechin's name while looking at the glowing object on the ground. He listens intently to the sounds around him, clearly alert and focused on what is happening. Two men look ahead tensely. One of them quietly says, "Ha ha ha." Zrenia. Two people are standing in a gazebo on a hill at night. He says it's his favorite place, with a lighted city in the background. She looks away thoughtfully and says something while in the dark forest. He is visibly worried, and she warns him that they must not make noise as someone is watching them. He looks away in worry while the other one watches him with concern. He said that you can even see the sea from here, standing next to her on the wooden veranda at night. He looks away with a slight smile on his face, surrounded by the night atmosphere. He listens thoughtfully as his interlocutor clarifies that his hometown is Gangneung. Two people stand on a wooden gazebo at night. One says that after growing up he moved to Seoul with his brother, but something went wrong. He looks forward thoughtfully and begins to speak. He sighs with relief and says that everything is clear now, although he is a little worried. He says he can't believe what's happening, and she listens to him in silence, standing next to the window in a dark room. He looks at her and she thoughtfully says that she cannot understand what is happening around her. She looks away thoughtfully as if trying to understand something important. He looks worried with his blue hair and she says something important, making him anxious. He turned and said something, looking back at his interlocutor in the silence of the night. He looks around tensely, feeling anxious and unsure of what is happening. He looks ahead tensely, feeling anxiety and sweat on his face. He bows, expressing deep respect or apology. She says that they are already late and helps Gongnung by standing next to another person in the darky. He warns that if they are not released before the merger is complete, something dangerous will happen. She starts to speak, but the words are not visible in the image. He looks at his interlocutor with surprise and anxiety, as if trying to understand what was said or what was happening nearby. She explains that this is about the destruction of someone's home and hometown, and that it's happening on a whole new level. He speculates that a petty criminal called the Disaster Liberator will become an unprecedented villain. He stands surrounded by glowing hands and is told that the guards will become impatient to catch and kill him. She looks up and says that no matter the outcome, he is a madman who ruined their lives. He looks ahead tensely, expressing anxiety and inner turmoil. He has his eyes and mouth wide open, expressing shock and fear as if he had just heard or seen something terrible. The two watch the city engulfed in red light and hear screams coming from afar. He stands on a floor covered in glowing red handprints and looks down. She stands with her back turned, and he, in a cloak, looks at her. And an important conversation takes place between them in a dark room. She says she has to take responsibility, and he remains silent in response. He clenched his fist, expressing inner tension or determination. She criticizes his plan, calling it clearly idiotic, during their conversation in a dark place. She says she wants to clarify one point, and he listens to her attentively. She is determined to not allow anyone to harm her friends. He looks forward with determination, preparing for the coming test in the silence of the night. He watches in a hood as a girl with pink hair and a man in a white cloak talk on a night street. He stands in a dark corridor and looks at the glowing screen of his phone. He grabbed the phone abruptly, expressing strong excitement or protest. He looks at the phone with a worried expression on his face. He speaks thoughtfully, and she listens to him with a serious look, continuing the conversation. They stand silently, he with his head down, she with her arms crossed, the sound of the wind heard between them. He listens attentively as she speaks with confidence, accompanying her words with snaps of her fingers. She starts speaking with a serious expression, addressing her interlocutor, but the words are not visible in the frame. He said something thoughtfully, looking away. Two people stand in front of a brightly lit entrance, and one of them expresses surprise. He looks at her with a serious expression, and she listens to him attentively in a tense atmosphere. He looks away attentively, making quiet sounds. He stepped on the tail as shown on the screen, where silhouettes of two people are visible. The image shows the Gangneung City Guard headquarters building with an inscription on the facade. She stands by the window and says that there are few people here and they don't have the skills for this. He shows a phone screen with the words Daejeon written on it. Field Team Leader Kim Eun-kyung, and says he is not Daejeong's general manager. She speaks on the phone with anxiety, clearly worried about what she heard. He asks for help, but the other one orders him to shut up. She speaks loudly on the phone, expressing strong emotions and tension. She, with pink hair, notices in surprise that something has gone beyond the limits, expressing concern. He slammed his fist hard into the surface next to the window. He tries to call the general manager Kang Young-mun, but to no avail. She remembers Woo's words. Hatchin explains that he is currently experiencing difficulties because of them. She touches her hair, anxiously feeling the tension in the moment. He responded with interest to his interlocutor's words as they stood near a building with windows through which people could be seen. He exclaimed, turning to Heejin and Jin Sung, who were standing on the sidewalk opposite him. He pushes the other one away, sharply shouting back. She screams no in panic and looks ahead with concern. She stands by the window and says she can't trust the security. He explains that his only goal is to help and save people from disaster. She firmly states that she will not allow anyone to be hurt, expressing her readiness to fight. He smiles and says something confidently, standing against the backdrop of the night city. At night, against the background of the house, a speech is heard about how the entire night team has done something or is going to do something. He said he didn't want her to interfere and warned her of the possible consequences of their actions. He hides his face under the hood and thinks that the special team will not be afraid of the mere appearance of the Liberator. He explains that they need to use the special structure of Gangneonja. They plan to awaken a disaster in City 2 to create chaos and, after the evacuation of the residents of City 1, destroy the remaining seal stones. She explains that the danger only concerns City 2, and there is no point in involving City 1 because they have already started to merge. He explains that if a disaster occurs in City 2, City 1 will also suffer and therefore the residents cannot be left in such danger. He tries to figure out what's going on with the keyboard, and it warns him that he may have touched something that's causing the device to not work. The image shows arcing and sparks flying from an electrical panel or shield. The image shows two swords clashing with sparks, accompanied by the thought that after curfew, the entire city falls silent. He suddenly noticed something, and the other one asked in surprise what was going on, expressing bewilderment and shock. A man in uniform warns Aram of an emergency when suddenly a bright flash is heard in the darkness. He noticed a body with red hair on the ground and became scared, reacting to the unexpected event. He asks in horror what is this glowing beam that suddenly appears next to him. The image says that in order to attack City 2, you first need to neutralize the guards. She exclaimed sharply and banged on the door, expressing urgency and determination. He entered a room where several people were lying and sitting on the floor with bottles, clearly drunk and relaxed. He lies on the floor with his eyes closed, feeling weak and heavy in his body. She was shocked to see him lying on the floor and tried to understand what had happened. He notices someone lounging around again and another offers him a drink, but he refuses. He laughs as another asks the team manager to speak, who walks away, and a third watches from afar. He says with a tense expression that he is proposing to make a toast. He holds up a device that shows the process of connecting to a number and begins to dial City 2. He stands on the balcony holding the phone to his ear and touching his head as if trying to concentrate or remember something important. He covers his face with his hands, expressing strong excitement or fear. He thinks that he shouldn't take responsibility for everything as long as she listens attentively. He considers the situation a real disaster and says it is beyond human capabilities. He tries to convince himself not to blame himself too much. He looks ahead tensely, sweating and clearly worried about what is happening around him. He, holding the radio, convinces the commander that it is not his fault and asks him to answer despite his despair. He looks ahead in horror, feeling a sudden shock and tension. He falls back startled by the sudden event and exclaims in bewilderment. Shouts and noise can be heard in the dark room, creating a tense atmosphere. He stands by the window in the building, and there is loud noise and a tense atmosphere around him. He falls from a height, and she watches this event in horror. He speculates that the main problem with the plan is Gangneung's general manager, Ham Nak-young. He thinks he can't handle this man yet. The image shows a bright electrical discharge running across the roof of a building against a twilight sky. He landed abruptly, surrounded by energy, his gaze determined and focused. He stands on the roof and says no in despair, surrounded by a whirlwind of energy. He thought it was okay because he didn't have to deal with the CEO. The image shows a bright red light coming from the character's eye, creating a tense and dramatic atmosphere. There is one person sitting on the roof of the building, and below appears the inscription, "But disaster." 3 people walk through a ruined city, and one of them says that they were able to hold out for a whole year. He holds out his hand and she struggles to get up, feeling pain and fatigue. He says that their family can be happy again, and that they won't have to face trouble or anything like that. He screams and tries to fight back, throwing his hand forward in a tense struggle. He screams in horror, trying to defend himself from the blue creature that is rapidly attacking him. He lies unconscious and covered in blood, and the atmosphere around him is gloomy and tense. He lies in the blood and the rain, his eyes suddenly glowing a bright blue. The image shows a calm cityscape with green trees, flowers, and buildings in the background under a clear sky. He fights 3 opponents using a glowing shield while 2 of them walk towards him, watching what is happening. He and she look warily at the wounded man with the glowing sword who is slowly approaching them. It concerns a wounded woman who, shocked, realizes that what is happening is indeed real. He remembers that the old house remains the same and agrees that his father was right. He, with wounds on his face, says with relief that they are home and that they succeeded. He holds the other's hand with a bloody hand and says that they are home. The image shows a bright red light accompanied by thoughts of our home. He sits on the roof of the building, surrounded by a dark atmosphere and haze, creating a tense mood for the scene. He yells for City 1 to answer the call while in a tense situation. He screams for whoever is going to throw up not to do it here and demands that the others wake up. He was surprised by the strange sound and cried out in surprise. He presses the broken phone hard and orders them to fix it, expressing irritation. Suddenly there was a loud bang, accompanied by a bright flash of light. He jumps sharply, surrounded by bright light against the backdrop of a dark space. He speaks about his home with tension and pain in his voice. She watch the bright red light coming from the room with wariness and surprise. She peers around the corner with concern while a little girl looks on in surprise. She recalls being shouted, "Thief!" and 2 men offering her a drink while the little girl stood next to her. She worries, asking if Haechan will be okay with it and noting that it looks strong. She with red hair says something serious, and the girl with blue hair listens, slightly surprised. She said that it needs to be said out loud. He looks ahead with tension in his hood and curses under his breath. He thought the situation looked bad against the backdrop of a bright and chaotic scene with energy and explosions. A huge creature with a red light in the center looks at the city and notices that the object is smaller than he expected. He is surprised by the scale of the disaster and notes that despite the smaller size of the sea stone, the situation is still serious. He notices the approaching light in his hood, expressing surprise without words. The image shows a connection between the underground disasters between the 2 cities, and says it is not just a combination of the 2 disasters. He is surprised that the creatures have swallowed each other and merged into a greater disaster. He stands in a hood against the backdrop of a bright explosion or flash of light, creating a dynamic, intense atmosphere. He suddenly attacks the enemy, delivering a powerful blow in the dark with a movement effect and impact sound. He suddenly strikes with a glowing weapon, creating a bright flash and sound effect. It releases a powerful beam of energy surrounded by bright light and dynamic lines of movement. He delivers a powerful blow surrounded by a vortex of energy, creating a spectacular explosion of power. He delivers a powerful energy blast to a huge red creature with an open mouth. He attacks sharply, dealing a powerful blow to the pink-haired opponent. He is wearing a hood and mask and expresses shock and says that this is madness. He attacks the huge demon with a bright wave of energy, dealing a powerful blow to its chest. He is determinedly focused and thinks that he must use all his strength while trying to contact headquarters in Daejeon. He panics and tries to understand what is happening and starts talking about belonging. From the dynamic dialogue, it follows that a state of emergency has been declared in the city of Gangneung. He exclaimed that it was a disaster, and at that moment, there was a powerful explosion, causing surprise and bewilderment in the other. The image shows the moment of impact or fall, accompanied by sound effects without visible characters or dialogue. He turned around abruptly in alarm, reacting to a sudden loud sound behind him. He receives a powerful blow accompanied by a cry of pain. He suddenly attacks the other, stabbing him in the chest with a dagger, accompanied by a loud sound. He abruptly parries the attack, creating a powerful blast of energy in response. He delivers a powerful blow with a glowing sword to the enemy who tries to defend himself. He suddenly grabs someone by the neck, making a loud sound. The image shows the moment a powerful blue energy beam pierces the metal structure, causing it to shatter and fly apart. The image shows a powerful energy explosion with the destruction of the structure, but the characters are not visible and do not speak. The hammer with the power of light collides with the energy barrier, creating a powerful explosion and bright flashes. He falls down, surrounded by glowing blue lines, heading towards a large vertical structure with a sparkling top. He delivers a powerful kick and the opponent flies back with a cry of, "Ugh!" He looks forward in fear, surrounded by bright purple and pink flashes of light. The image shows a powerful energy blast or attack with bright lights and dynamic movement effects. He quickly runs away, apologizing to himself for something as a red glow swirls around him. He begs someone to try to win as sounds and vibrations appear on his broken phone screen. A huge creature with red tentacles and a glowing face appears in front of them, radiating powerful energy. He delivers a powerful blow with his lightsaber, surrounded by bright flashes and energy. She looks ahead with tension, preparing for something important and dangerous. There is a powerful explosion with a bright flash of light and a sound that conveys the force of the impact. He fights using glowing weapons, creating a powerful blow that causes destruction around him. He turns his head sharply, noticing the 10 o'clock direction and the 150-degree angle. It deals a powerful blow, creating a bright light effect and destroying the surrounding structure. He notices the graffiti and remembers that he saw it 3 days ago during a patrol. He announces that the target is nearby and rushes forward with his sword, creating a powerful energy blast. He notices that the object's flight direction is changing, watching what is happening with concentration. He explains that there is a construction site above and a residential area below. He delivers a powerful blow with his glowing sword, creating an energy vortex around himself. It releases a powerful energy blast that destroys objects around it and creates a bright glow. She swings her glowing sword, reflecting the falling rocks in the bright light. He asked with tension in his voice where his interlocutor was. He slams his foot down on the surface, making a loud sound. He notices that the power is already great and reflects on the main risk of the operation, the need to separate from Maze. He clenches his fist, thinking that at maximum power he will be able to maintain this state for no more than 6 hours. He muses that the more he uses it, the more serious the situation becomes, and that he first needs to finish the plan and meet Maze again. He assures that he will succeed no matter what, addressing Shin Jairemi. He thinks he only has one chance, and at that moment he delivers a powerful blow with his hand surrounded by blue light. He quickly delivers a powerful blow surrounded by a bright blue light and the sounds of movement. He takes a powerful hit, and the voiceover says that he has about 80% of his power left. He hopes that she will get tired too, watching her movements and focusing on her. She says something important with wounds on her face, looking away. The character's eye widens sharply in surprise or fear. He reacts to something unexpected with wide eyes and a tense expression on his face. He releases a powerful blue energy beam from his open palm. It releases a powerful blast of energy surrounded by bright blue light and dynamic lines of movement. He panics and says he must defend himself, preparing for action. He jumps back sharply, noticing something unexpected. He smirked and cursed, then sent a powerful energy blast towards his opponent. He stands on a wooden platform in a dark room, surrounded by bright lights and sounds that create a tense atmosphere. He said "damn" in despair and peered around the corner, watching what was happening with great intensity. He watches as a powerful explosion lights up the night sky over the city. The image shows a bright explosion or flash of light with a dynamic movement effect. He delivers a powerful blow with his staff, creating a bright vortex of energy around himself. He stands with an axe, preparing to attack the glowing red creature, and thinks about strength, but something stops him. The image shows a powerful explosion or energy release with bright blue light and sound effects. He prepares for action with a tense expression on his face, radiating determination and inner strength. It releases a powerful energy blast that illuminates the entire stage and hits the enemy. The image shows a powerful explosion with motion effects and sound. He raises his sword surrounded by a bright blue aura, preparing for a powerful attack against a background of red light. He screams in pain or horror surrounded by bright blue flashes of energy. The image shows a powerful explosion or energy release, but no characters are visible. The explosion destroys the wall, creating a bright flash and a collapse of rocks around it. A man in a hooded mask suddenly strikes, accompanied by a loud sound. He stands in the dark with his hood on and watches the glowing streams in the night sky. He, wearing a mask, looks in surprise at the glowing object in front of him. She grabbed his hand with the staff and said, "You..." Zrania, trying to stop him. He is hooded and looks at the glowing object, and the other, amazed, says that this can't be true. He asked in shock if the other person had done it, with a look of horror on his face. He confirms that he has about 70% of his strength left. He thinks she's not in the best condition either, but he's confident he can handle it. He says resolutely that he must do it, clenching his fist among the rubble. He says with a scared expression that maybe it's because of the way he looks. He looks away and says something serious, hiding his face in the shadow of his hood. He is in shock and has bruises on his face, expressing great surprise and fear. The two walk through the ruined land, surrounded by glowing blue lines that create a tense atmosphere. He asks with fear and wounds on his face what is happening, expressing strong excitement and tension. The creature emits a bright light and makes a loud cry, filling the city with energy and causing surprise. She holds a sword in her hands and looks at a hooded guy who stands in front of her in a dark room with a blue light and a symbol on the wall. He suddenly shows the phone, causing surprise to the other person standing behind him. The man in black sharply replies that the other must go there himself, while the two in white watch them. A man shouts at another man to think for himself, and the other man apologizes and asks someone to contact them. A crowd of people gathered in the courtyard of a shelter in the Yongpo district. A low hum of conversation could be heard. She supports him when he seems down and leans on her. An error message appears on the screen asking you to check the connection and try again. He said he lost signal while the other was rapidly pressing buttons on the phone trying to fix something. He shouts, asking what is happening, and the other two, holding phones, look surprised and try to understand the situation. He explains that they are still sorting things out while another listens anxiously, and a third watches tensely against the backdrop of red lights and crowds. He pointed his finger sharply at another, claiming it was true, while the third watched them from behind. He angrily calls those present scoundrels while the rest quietly talk among themselves. He points to a bright light that suddenly explodes with a loud boom sound. Two people are walking down the street surrounded by a crowd, and one of them reacts in surprise to what is happening. Someone is moving quickly, and a pendant with a chain is visible in the foreground, accompanied by the sound of voom. He suddenly snatches something from another man's hand against the backdrop of a bright flash of light and a group of people behind them. He looks at the screen with concern, and the other one, worried, says that this is something important and unexpected. A group of people moves quickly down the corridor, and one of them looks back anxiously. A glowing ball of energy suddenly appears and emits a powerful light, accompanied by the sound of whoosh. He and she look up at a bright light, surrounded by other people in a tense atmosphere. The image shows a map with red markers and circles indicating important locations, with no visible characters or dialogue. He says it's for people while three people sit on the floor of a room and look at a large piece of paper. He looks at a map with two zones, one of which is red and dangerous and the other is blue and safe. She is shocked and exclaims that she cannot believe what she heard. He watches attentively and she listens in surprise, waiting for his words in a quiet room. He makes the victory sign with two fingers and starts explaining something. He gently stroked her head, expressing concern and support. He suddenly grabbed the blue-eyed girl by the hair, expressing surprise. He speaks anxiously to someone, holding his hand on an object in front of him. He nods in response to the touch of another hand on his hair. She insistently asks to believe in Miro. He makes a loud cry of "Growl" when expressing strong emotion or tension. Someone makes loud screams and growls, expressing strong emotions or pain. He screams in panic, "Oh no!" Logically and strange sounds and screams are heard against the backdrop of a tense scene. He orders someone to be sent immediately to the second district, addressing a group of people. He hears the order that all guards in Gangneung are to be on alert, and notices that the load is not that heavy. He announces the start of the emergency protocol while several people are seen in the background in a tense situation. An alert appears on the screen about the activation of the emergency level 1 protocol with a loud alarm sound. She looks through the blinds with a smile as he carefully opens them. He looks at her as she approaches the window and he says he didn't know about her ability. He is in a daze, tied up and sitting next to another person in a dark room. He noted that the main control center was easy to capture due to the scattered nature of the guards. He said he had shut down the system, cut off communications throughout the city, activated emergency evacuation protocols, and now had to transport everyone to District 2. She holds her head and thinks she is participating in the most clumsy act of terrorism in the world. He muses that if other guards find out about the plan and try to stop the evacuation, there will be problems. She anxiously thinks that after Nahyeon's defeat, everything is over. It emits a powerful blue light, causing a loud doom sound and creating the feeling of a powerful explosion or energy release. She stands in front of the hood with a sword in her hand, preparing for battle in a gloomy atmosphere. He, wearing a hood, said with a surprised expression, "What the?" against the backdrop of a bright blue light. She swung her arm sharply, making a whoosh sound, and expressed surprise without words. The two fight while surrounded by a blue energy vortex, which creates a powerful blow that hits one of them. He makes a powerful strike with his glowing sword, surrounded by bright energy and dynamic movement. He ducked sharply, dodging a powerful blast of light accompanied by the sounds of "Fwoom" and then "Duck!" He smashes the ground with a powerful blow, causing an explosion and flying debris. He is in shock and has blood on his face when suddenly a bright light appears with a loud sound. He delivers a powerful blow, creating a bright flash and impact sound, while the other reflects the attack. He slides across the floor, trying to dodge a blow from another who stands in the shadows. He says with blood on his face that he will not give up, despite the difficulties and danger around him. He, in a hood with an astonished look, notices something sudden in the darkness. He notices that the other one cannot properly demonstrate his abilities and asks him this question. He realized with horror that he couldn't stop what was happening, and his eyes widened in shock. She is surrounded by a glow and moves towards the man, radiating powerful energy as if preparing for an important action. Calamity. With determination. Emancipator. Directing energy at an enemy hidden in the darkness. He admits that he can't even imitate the real manifestation. He reflects on his inability to release power despite all his attempts. He speculates that he must physically touch the target to deal damage, as the energy is seemingly locked inside his body. A glowing object rushes forward, accompanied by a dash sound effect. He thinks that if so, then his only weapon. At that moment, the enemy quickly attacks him. He is wearing a mask and a hood and suddenly jumps forward as if preparing to attack or dodge. A glowing blue fist slams down with force, accompanied by a loud voom sound, destroying the surrounding area. He explains that upon contact, a huge amount of force is released, accompanied by a bright blue light and destruction around. Two people fall in a bright explosion of debris accompanied by a loud sound. It releases a powerful blue energy blast, creating a bright flash and dynamic movement. He is wearing a hooded mask and looking forward, and the sound of "do" can be heard around him. "Do" creating a tense atmosphere. He speaks decisively about one blow, preparing for action against the backdrop of a glowing blue light. He thinks he only needs one hit to land. He wears a mask with bright eyes and makes ominous sounds, creating a tense atmosphere. He listens in horror as they tell him that he too must descend. He looks ahead with alarm, sensing the approach of danger, accompanied by a loud sound. Doom! She leaves and he warns her that she shouldn't do anything by counting her steps out loud. She looks away and says something serious, expressing determination and tension in her voice. He explains that one cannot use the blast intentionally while another is reflecting the energy blast. He explains that the power within the body is instantly transferred, demonstrating this with glowing energy between their hands. He delivers a powerful energy strike that sends the other character flying into the air. One hooded character retreats while another with long hair suddenly jumps down through the blue glow. He warns that the situation will become very difficult as he fights, surrounded by bright flashes of energy. The image shows an explosion with a boom sound effect, but the characters are missing. He jumps and dodges glowing projectiles, moving quickly in battle. He quickly delivers a powerful blow with his sword, accompanied by the sound of slash. He moves forward quickly and then delivers a powerful blow, accompanied by the sounds of fwish and fwoosh. He looks on in shock with a scarred face when he hears the word finish. He moved forward sharply, accompanying the movement with a bright flash of light. He rushes forward and she stands confidently in place, preparing to attack. Someone grabbed the object sharply, accompanying the action with the sound grab. He looks with fear at the bright light coming from a blow or flash in front of him. The image shows the moment of a strong impact or collision with the sound effect. Crash against the background of bright lines. He releases a powerful blast of energy, creating a bright blue flash and a strong stream of light. He jumps down from a great height, surrounded by dynamic motion lines and the inscription jump. She asked in surprise what it was, noticing that her hand had begun to hurt and throb. He thinks that she is not unharmed either, but at this rate he will lose his strength faster than she will. He stands in the darkness, surrounded by red and blue light, as if preparing for an important event or battle. He gritted his teeth and decided he had to figure out how to channel his energy. Two characters fight. One delivers a swift blow accompanied by the sound whoosh. He releases a blue energy stream from his hand, accompanied by the sounds of swish and whoosh. He quickly releases an energy projectile from his hand, sending it forward with great force. He gets hit hard in the shoulder and is sent flying backwards with a force accompanied by a whoosh sound. The two fight in a destroyed room. One of them releases a powerful blue energy blast, knocking the enemy back. She looks in horror at the bright flash of light that suddenly blinded her. He releases energy in the hood, which causes another, floating in the air, to fly back with force. He jumps to the side, trying to dodge the tentacles attacking him. He tries to reassure himself by repeating that he can handle the task. She is focused, surrounded by blue light, and he is watching her carefully. The image shows a close-up of a hand with scratches and traces of blood against a dark background. He stands in the darkness, hooded, surrounded by blue light, as if preparing for action. He thinks to himself that he can handle the task while the blue light glows around him. He jumps sharply to the side, dodging a powerful blow accompanied by a bright flash of light. She closed her eyes and concentrated on directing energy from her hand, preparing for a powerful action. He moves forward with a determined expression and blood on his face, creating the effect of rapid movement. The hero suddenly opens his eyes, momentarily blinded by a bright flash of light. The two fight. One releases a powerful energy blast aimed at the other, who tries to dodge it. A glowing bubble suddenly appears and explodes, creating a bright flash and a bubble sound. He reacts with surprise to the sudden appearance of blue fire in his hand. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword, causing a bright flash of light and an energy blast. He stands with two glowing swords. The building around him is collapsing, and the sound of footsteps and crashing can be heard. He gritted his teeth through pain and anger with blood on his face, preparing for further trials. He breathes heavily and looks at his hand, feeling pain or damage. He breathes heavily and despairingly admits that he has failed again. He sits on the ground and she asks if he's going to try again. He releases blue energy streams with concentration, creating a powerful vortex around himself. He is surprised, and the creature explains that Miro can use his powers. He admitted that he could not fulfill the request, expressing regret. He watches as she suddenly appears with shining hair and asks about the body. He wonders out loud what if he tries to repeat what Pinky did back then. He watches the bubble suddenly burst and explains that this is how it works for him. He says that Miro is not really human as his bruised hand rises up. He sits on the floor in a dark room and says it doesn't matter as long as someone comes to him. He delivers a powerful blow with a glowing axe to the enemy, making a whoosh sound. He says with a look of horror in his eyes that he warned his interlocutor. He says that Haechan is special. He muses that the reason why only he can resist Miro's power might be special. She shines a beam of light on a man sitting on the ground and wonders if that's why he's the same as her. He is wearing a hood with wounds on his face and looks away tensely as if preparing for an upcoming event. He screams and falls backwards as someone kicks him while holding a flag. He stands in the darkness and says that first you need to follow the flow of inner strength. He sees something violently breaking and cracking, surrounded by a bright blue light. The image shows a powerful blue energy blast or beam directed to the side, with no characters visible. The silhouette with horns reflects a powerful blue energy blast, accompanied by a loud bang sound. It fires a powerful blue energy beam towards the enemy, creating the effect of rapid movement and strength. He looks in horror at the blue blades flying towards him, cutting through the air with a loud whistle. He watches a bright blue flash of light surrounded by dark and red sparks, creating a tense atmosphere. He exclaimed in amazement as he saw a bright flash of light in front of him. It suddenly emits a bright blue light, creating a blinding flash. He is shocked by the appearance of a mysterious figure and exclaims, surprised that it is she. A hand with blue light moves quickly, creating a whistling effect in the air. She looks forward in horror and rage, her face covered in blood and scratches, expressing determination and fear at the same time. A powerful burst of energy is shown with a whoosh sound effect, but no characters are visible. He stands surrounded by blue flames, his eyes glowing and his clothes looking worn and damaged. He pronounces the name the Liberator of Disasters. A hand with blue light moves quickly, creating a whistling effect in a dark space. She is horrified and angry, with bloody marks on her face, expressing strong emotions. He stands in a glow of blue light, his face covered in a glowing mask-like pattern that radiates energy and magic. The cloud suddenly shuddered when it heard a sound around it at night. They notice that something has changed with Haechan. The night city is illuminated with blue light. A loud dun sound is heard, but the characters in the image are not visible. He raises a glowing staff and urges someone, telling them to hurry. A crowd of people with flashlights moves along the street, and blue lights glow over the city at night, accompanied by the sound of swarm. He thinks that he needs to become as big as possible, but at the same time remain light. He asks her to create the biggest commotion possible, but at the same time remember something important. He warns her not to hurt anyone, and she nods in response, understanding that he only needs to scare them. He said he would leave the control center to Jerem, addressing her while she and another girl listen to him. He suddenly grabs her hand, causing her to be surprised. He squeezes another man's hand in the dark, creating a tense atmosphere. He leaned towards her and she tried to pull away, and he said no. He rubs Miro's head and asks where the Miro he knows is. He firmly stated that after defeating Nagyong he would head to them. He and she watch as the glowing creature screams, emitting a bright light and creating a tense atmosphere. He runs away in the dark and someone in a panic tries to stop him, saying, No! 3 people are tense. One of them asks if the person approaching is from the 2nd district. He panics and asks what happened to the chief as a crowd gathers around them. He asked what they should do now, looking at the night city with many luminous points. He shouts, "On the line!" And then there is a loud bang and another person in the distance reacts to what is happening. She suddenly picked him up in her arms, expressing surprise and tension in the dark room. They found unconscious people in the center and are discussing whether they passed out from shock. He looked around warily and she silently watched him from behind, creating a tense atmosphere. He shuddered and she tried to explain something with fear. She explains that they are all on the 3rd level. She holds back her anger and asks if they are joking with her. He noted that an hour had already passed, and they were wasting time while crowds were moving through the city. Someone makes a loud cry of "Grah!" to express strong emotion or pain. The heroes witness a bright explosion in the sky, which is accompanied by a loud boom sound. 4 characters react to a loud sound they hear and look tensely towards the source of the noise. She noted the successful move with surprise and admiration, praising Miro. He and she are surprised by the sudden appearance of a glowing object between them. There is a powerful explosion with a bright blue flash and a boom sound. The scene features a bright flash of light with a F-whoosh sound effect, creating a sense of sudden and powerful event. He exclaims in surprise as he watches the glowing hands reach up in the bright blue light. He is clutching something in his hand against the backdrop of a glowing tree with branches. She warns that if they don't leave now, they will die, and he responds by expressing concern and readiness to act. He stands surrounded by glowing blue vines that emanate powerful energy, creating an atmosphere of intense and mysterious power. He turned around sharply, sensing movement nearby. The image shows a powerful energy explosion with a motion effect and the sound fwish. The image shows bright blue energy streams intertwining in dynamic motion against the backdrop of a glowing ball. The image shows a powerful energy strike with the inscription "Stab," directed downwards with great force. He jerked sharply, noticing something unexpected in front of him. He screams, "No!" in horror as a powerful explosion and loud boom sounds are heard. Boom! He exclaims in surprise, noticing something unusual, and the other one cringes in surprise and tension. He suddenly felt pain and exclaimed that it hurt. He stands surrounded by glowing blue patterns and thinks that the situation or object is completely different from what he expected. He looks at the glowing creature in surprise and tries to understand what is happening. He stands in front of a glowing creature surrounded by plants, making a loud root sound. He stands on a tree branch, illuminated by light, and below someone quickly runs away. He looks away with surprise and tension, as if he noticed something important. He stands on a dais and watches over the bustling city, surrounded by glowing blue streams of energy. The 3 characters are amazed by what they see. One of them exclaims, "Wow!" She thinks in amazement that it was amazing and incredible, feeling her heart beat strongly. He is surprised to see Jaehwan-yo and tries to come to his senses, realizing that this is not the main thing in the situation. He appears before the other 2 surrounded by glowing energy, announcing his arrival. He sheepishly replies that they are not sure to a question asked by a girl with white hair. He explains that they evacuated civilians as per the announcement, keeping their weapons at the ready and listening carefully to the interlocutor. He reassures the other that it's just an aftershock from an earthquake while she watches warily. He starts counting, saying 2, while she stands nearby and listens. She with pink hair warns that if he doesn't stop, he will die, and he listens to her attentively. He looks ahead with concentration and she reacts to his actions with alarm. He addresses a man while a pink-haired girl watches the conversation against a backdrop of glowing blue lines. He falls through a bright blue portal with a loud "do" sound. Doom. He creates a powerful energy field and 2 people nearby watch what is happening in the light-emitting space. Several people look up, surrounded by glowing blue streams of energy that suddenly appear around them. He reacts with surprise to the sudden appearance of a powerful energy wave that approaches him with a loud sound. The image shows a powerful discharge of blue lightning piercing a dark space from top to bottom. She stands in the forest and reacts in surprise to a sudden strong gust of wind around her. It stands against a backdrop of glowing branches and makes a sound similar to the whistling of the wind. He looks forward with a serious expression, his hair covering part of his face. He stares at the glowing object, feeling tension and approaching danger. They confirm that it is the security guard Jaehwan-yo who guaranteed safety near the tunnel. 3 people stand on the street surrounded by glowing branches that whisper, creating a mysterious atmosphere. He quickly moved to the side, making a swoosh sound, and said, She heard a knock and looked at the door in surprise, not understanding what was happening. He looks around warily, hearing the sound, and prepares himself for the unexpected event. He asks anxiously why this is happening as she stands in the distance, surrounded by glowing energy. She whispers something to him and he stands with his eyes closed, looking tired and wounded. They discuss how he couldn't wait for official permission or for staff to arrive. He stands in front of a glowing blue circle that makes a loom sound. She tensely says it's time to act when suddenly the light flashes. She looks thoughtfully at the glowing tree and remains silent, lost in her thoughts. He directs a blue energy flame at his injured arm, making a fwish sound. He stands on the ground with blood dripping from it. He holds his hand over his blood-covered face and smiles weakly in the darkness. Someone is holding a walkie-talkie and is reporting that they are with Beyondju. 3 people stand among ice crystals. One explains that it is not just ice, but something more dangerous and unusual. He orders via radio to call someone to check the situation while another rubs his head in pain. He said he would go himself while the other 3 stood together in the glowing space. He walks with difficulty across the ruined land, surrounded by glowing blue threads. 2 men discuss the red team teamwork. When one of them suddenly rushes forward, he reluctantly agrees and she swallows nervously, watching him with concern. He anxiously wonders if she has gone crazy, looking at her interlocutor in the dark. They suspect that she is trying to harm them and find her performance terrible, watching her closely. He notices a lot of blood and understands why he passed out, and she agrees with this. He is surprised that the guards actually believe this and wonders what is wrong with them. 2 stand by a destroyed road with blue glowing streams, and a third pushes the girl forward, creating a tense atmosphere. He asks about the situation in Area 2 and the disaster, addressing the girl with pink hair while a third person listens to their conversation. He was surprised to recognize the stranger as the guard Jae-hwan Yo, expressing doubt about his identity. He says thoughtfully that these trees have a special meaning. He turns to the man in the center, who confirms while the other 2 watch their conversation against the backdrop of glowing blue trees. He asks her with blood on his face to tell him about the 2nd district, and she listens attentively. He calmly said that everything was fine against the backdrop of a glowing blue light. He stands on the cracked ground and suddenly there is a strong shaking and rumbling sound. He listens intently to the approaching sounds, expressing anxiety and concern. 4 people stand in the light and one explains that the buildings immediately began to collapse. He explained that he had brought it back to the 1st district, addressing the others who were listening attentively. He complained of pain in his eyes as the other 2 looked at him intently in a tense atmosphere. He flinched, noticing something unexpected against the glowing sky. He looks forward thoughtfully, touching his fingers to his lips, expressing anxiety and concentration. 4 characters discuss the situation near a glowing rift, and one of them points to it, warning the others. He looks at her with a serious expression and she remains silent, not answering his silent question. He looks forward with a serious expression and makes a whistling sound. 3 characters stand near glowing trees at night. One of them points forward as if urging them to jump. He supports her, telling her that everything will be fine as long as she stands by her side, while the other one watches them from the shadows. He looks at her with tension, blood on his face, and says something important. She calms the blue-haired one who is staggering, saying that he is simply weak and cursed by the body, and the third one listens to them silently. She whispers to him, asking if everything is going according to plan. He looks away tensely with blood on his face, preparing for the upcoming event. 3 stand on a ruined road illuminated by glowing blue tentacles, while a 4th floats among them. He stands by the ice wall and another calls him by his name, Heikan. She says she can't let someone get away and she's determined to stop that person. He smiles despite the blood on his face, expressing determination and inner strength. He pulls her back, saying that they can't trust these losers. He clenches his fists tensely and the other one panics and tries to say something or stop him. He shouts for the operations security guard to appear while another watches the proceedings. He stands among glowing blue energy streams and expresses displeasure, saying, "What the hell?" She runs quickly along the road surrounded by glowing branches. He stands on a glowing bridge over a huge chasm, surrounded by a mysterious blue light and sounds reminiscent of blows. He thinks it could be a real disaster as flashes of light are heard around him. He calls for another to jump, surrounded by lightning, while a dark figure watches him from the shadows. He grabbed her abruptly, noticing that she was alive and she was breathing heavily, trying to regain consciousness. He notices a flash and wonders if it is an SOS signal indicating her location. He jerked sharply, noticing something unexpected in front of him. He says "U4" to the group. He looks forward with red eyes and the sound of "done, done" underlines the tension of the moment. He looks determined and says he will do it. She sits on the floor and thinks that guy was on a whole other level. He thinks he is different from Haechan, and at that moment someone suddenly grabs his hand. She screamed in horror, expressing great fear. He found Miro and happily said that he found him. He catches her in his arms, warning her not to try to jump. He apologizes and explains that Miro tried her best until Haechan came. He fidgets nervously and says he just hates it. She says that Haechan has become strange, expressing concern and surprise. He holds the girl with blue curls by the hair and says that they don't have time for this now. He suddenly turns to her at night under a street lamp, expressing an urgent need. He flinched sharply, reacting to the unexpected event. He and she hold hands and a powerful blue energy emanates from their contact. She stumbles and is surprised to see a glowing blue creature in front of her. He smiles, his face enveloped in a bright blue flame, accompanied by the sound of DUI Dun. Someone is using a key to access the system with field-level access. Ops 3 and the device makes a beeping sound. She listens in surprise as he begins to speak, the sound of movement underlining the tension of the moment. He notices that someone is acting strange while another is working on a computer, making sounds of pressing keys. He hopes that things work differently in other cities, but she reports that the security system is deactivated. Two people enter a large room and one of them says that something was provided. The image shows the sound of footsteps coming from around the corner, but the characters are not visible. They stand in front of a glowing stone with a symbol on it, and he says what it was. Continued, not it's visible? She glances at the screen, which displays a message about temporarily deactivating the security system and opening the gate. He says yes, and she stands far away against the wall in the dark. He looks ahead with concentration against the backdrop of glowing blue lines, preparing for an important event. He heard the sound of a radio that suddenly started to sound. She thought with irritation that the situation was useless, and he looked worried next to her. She looked away sharply when she heard the sound of a blow. He complained that he didn't want to come here while she stood silently nearby after the loud noise. She stopped abruptly and he reached out his hand towards her in fear when he heard a crack. He muses that after disabling the system and getting inside, all he has to do is pretend to resist and then lose. She confirms, and he thinks that he will have to pretend again, and that it is difficult to lose a fight convincingly. She confidently says that there is no need to worry. He smiles and says she won't have to pretend. He and she simultaneously reach for something in the darkness, creating a tense atmosphere. She moved forward suddenly, creating a bright flash of light, while another person stood nearby. She looks ahead with surprise and alarm, feeling the sudden movement of air around her. He jumps at her with a burning blue flame on his head and she looks up, preparing to attack. He exclaimed to himself in shock, expressing bewilderment and surprise. The image shows an explosion or powerful release of energy with a bright blue light effect and sound. He, with a burning blue face, assures that he will make sure that it does not cause pain. 4 people watch a helicopter land at night. The sound of its blades spinning can be heard. In an office with many computers, he addresses his colleagues, who are quietly chatting among themselves. He is working on his computer and notices that he thinks the city has lost its signal. He touches his head thoughtfully and asks what about Gwangju. She says on the phone that they have thrown back Gwanja and shows the consequences. He thinks with surprise that it can't be and asks himself if it was Jarim. He notices another man in a long coat quickly enter the room and tries to understand what is happening. He winced as he noticed her looking at him intently in the tense atmosphere. He panics when someone grabs his shoulder, causing him to become scared and tense. He is standing in the hallway with a mask and a hood, and a loud do-done sound is heard. The one in the center said that they should stick together and extended his hand forward, calling for the others to follow him. He announces that they are expected to arrive in 10 minutes, and the other one panics and asks why they are here. He looks worried and she, sitting at the computer, tugs at his sleeve while whispers are heard around. A group wearing masks and hoods enters the room, creating a tense atmosphere. He stands in the room wearing a mask and a hood, creating an atmosphere of mystery and tension. 2 people in long coats hear alarms and see no signal warnings on screens. He asks in surprise who is in front of him, turning to another who leaves without turning around. 2 men in uniform claim they don't recognize the other 2 standing in front of them in a dark room with blue lighting. 4 men in a lab discuss data on a screen. One of them draws the other's attention to important information. He grabs the shoulder of another who is walking ahead, surrounded by people against a blue background. He says emphatically that the other person is actually doing it, accompanying the words with a sharp movement of his hand. 4 men discuss that someone from RED is involved in the situation while in a room with computer equipment. He thinks to himself that the others are moving forward as the group moves through the glowing tunnel. He shouts that the guard has a duty that he must fulfill. He addresses 2 men in dark clothes, one of whom looks wary while the other reacts to his interlocutor's words with a serious expression. He said something sharply and the other listened anxiously, noticing a sudden movement nearby. He says with indignation, wearing glasses, that no one in Gangneung originally wanted to come here and be properly rewarded. He is in a panic and says he can't understand why this is happening to him. One of them is surprised that Daejeong has over 100 somethings, discussing it with the others in the tech room. He suddenly snatches something and says that Gangneung is called the City of Exile for a reason. He thinks they are so hopeless. The 3 stand in front of a bright light, reflecting that, contrary to belief, they were fragile and had their own problems. He reflects that the further he gets from the headquarters in Daejeon, the worse the situation becomes. But despite this, he continues to move forward. The destruction of the tower is accompanied by thoughts that it is no different from a building on quicksand. He says with a serious expression that he can't help, turning to another man who is listening to him in the shadows. 4 stand at the control panels, one addresses the others, pointing to the data screen. An image of a city appears on the screen with a caption, accompanied by the sounds of flashes without visible characters or dialogue. Two men react with caution to a sound coming from a man with red hair standing in front of them. He and she walk down the hallway and he exclaims in surprise. One of them said that he was sure that Heichen had escaped, while two others stood at the monitors and the third held a radio that was making sounds. He reports that it is from the people with the seal talisman, while the other holds the gun and listens. He said that he did everything again the way the other person wanted, expressing his irritation with the sound tisk. He notices that she is avoiding something by watching her movements in the reflection. One of them orders someone to be brought onto the screen immediately, while the other two react to the order in a tense situation. He is wearing glasses and the other is panicking. Both are tense and worried about what is happening around them. He looks at the reflection of his glasses with surprise and tension, as if trying to comprehend what is happening. He, with a burning blue flame instead of a face, prepares to attack the enemy. She jumps up sharply, heading towards the target. She sharply orders him not to move, expressing determination and tension. He smiles, his face enveloped in a bright blue flame that makes the sound done. 3 blue energy waves attack the door, trying to break through it. He, with a face of blue flame, notices the surveillance camera, and she takes a cautious step, hiding around the corner. Heichen's name with alarm as she heard his footsteps. He stands over a fallen man in pink with a burning blue flame instead of a face, demonstrating strength and threat. He whispers to the other to pretend to lose consciousness. She looks in horror at the man with blue fiery hair who suddenly appeared next to her. The hand taps the surface, making a TAP sound. He thinks that something is wrong with him, sensing that his behavior is unusual. He reflects on the strength, appearance, and the whole aura of another person. He lies on the floor, and in his thoughts he hears that this is not the Heichen he knows. She lies on the floor next to a creature emitting blue flames, and he wonders what the strangest thing about this situation is. 2 men study the data, and one notices that the energy of the object does not resemble security, but rather something else. It depicts a scene with rapid movement accompanied by the sound of swish, possibly related to magic or energy. She looks ahead with surprise and tension, as if realizing something important or dangerous. He sighs, his face enveloped in blue flames, creating an atmosphere of tension and mysticism.